You get total view times per fewer videos. Okay. There we go. Excellent. Hello, YouTube. Does it look different to you? Like it, I don't know, just a slightly different layout. But, oh well. Hi everyone. Hi YouTube. Okay. Learning the back end of a website is neat. Yeah, I mean, and I feel, and also there are parts of my YouTube analytics that like, it still says like we don't have enough information yet. So, because there's such new channels that it doesn't even really have a grasp of like who my audience is yet. But hello over on YouTube. Oh, thank you for posting that, Sean. Yeah, we've got a pinned comment now both on Twitch and on YouTube with the book that we are diving back into, which is The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood. We took a slight break from it to read A Christmas Carol on Sunday, and then unfortunately I was sick on Tuesday, so we missed that night. But now we're diving back into Robin Hood. They were going to roll out a feature to simplify dual format streaming. Yes, which is something I'm really interested in, but I don't know if it's just simplifying it if you're going straight through YouTube Studio, or if it's also simplifies it if you're using like OBS or something. Hold on, let me change my mic settings. Okay. Can't believe how long you read for. That was impressive. I fell asleep and woke up to you. That was a lot of reading. Like, I mean, 6 to 7 hours of reading. The stream was longer than that. We had like an hour and a quarter of just chatting, and then OBS crashed and we had to start stream again. Yeah, that was possibly my longest stream ever. 7.5 when you woke up, right? Fel, why you so heckin' cute? Oh my god, Nomad. Well, why you so heckin' cute? How you doing? Most of the interface now says to connect an encoder, so that implies OBS or similar as a requirement. Oh, like it says that you have to? Interesting. I mean, it still luckily worked exactly as well through SE Live as before, so I guess the update didn't work anything on that end. And stop paying attention. No worries. I mean, I'm hoping within the week, and that's like me giving like extra time. Within the week, I want to have the whole Christmas Carol edited and up. Hopefully I will get a bunch done tomorrow and the next day. Oops. I'm doing okay, Nomad. I am excited to jump back into The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood. Dropping a like and a comment, then bitch for real. Thank you, Buddha. I appreciate it. Yeah, things like that. Dropping likes, comments. Apparently all helps with your channel overall, because this is the thing. I've been on Twitch this whole time. Just Twitch. This is my first foray into other platforms. Twitch has no algorithm. Except for bigger number better. It does, right? Okay, it has a slight, like with the whole, like, you know, you might like these viewers based on, like, people that watch the same streams as you. But, like, it's, this one, there's completely different and more fleshed out algorithm. So things like that really make a difference in whether YouTube pushes out your videos. That being said, this is not the kind of channel that I expect to, like, pop off. But I'm hoping it will be a channel that just like has nice steady growth. That would be cool. That would be cool. How many times can Lusty appear? There's a lot of Lusty men in here. Yeah. You're gonna be hammered by the end of this. I'm DJ over in YouTube. Recommended channels are totally a thing. On Twitch, yeah. Yeah, I had to, I give them credit for that. There's something there. But are they stout? They're always stout. Everything's stout. Everything in the world is stout and lusty. Except for the hot ladies. They're buxom. Important difference. Okay. Now. It's a lot of lusty men in here. Not in here. In Sherwood Forest. Okay. So, if you remember the last time we read this, which was like a week ago, okay, Friar Tuck has now joined the group. The Bard has agreed to join their group and also gotten married to the girl. They made an enemy of a bishop, a really greedy bishop, and they met a knight who was about to lose his land from being so much in debt. And so they brought both the bishop and the knight, and by brought, I mean the knight they invited and the bishop they kind of kidnapped, back to their camp in Sherwood Forest and feasted them, and then stole a lot of the bishop's stuff and took a third of it for themselves and a third for charity and left a third for the bishop. And for the charity, they gave it to the knight. Which is interesting. I mean, because this is someone who comes from a rich family. They own a lot of land. I mean, he's about to be forfeit on his lands. But he's like a higher class landholder. But I guess, I don't know if it's because Robin Hood is seeing him as like a poor man now because he's about to lose everything, or if he's trying to like, I don't know, he doesn't seem scheming enough to be trying to like sow favors amongst the elevated classes. I don't know if there's any kind of scheme behind there, but anyway. All right. Kind of kidnap, yeah, a little bit. So, we are picking up again with that night, with this next chapter. So if you are reading along with me, which you can do by clicking in the link that is pinned at the top of chat, you can either download it for free from Project Gutenberg, or you can just open it in a browser tab. Hi, Anarchy! We are starting with the chapter called How Sir Richard of the Lee Paid His Debts. Alright. Gosh, sorry. I need to move where my mic arm is actually clamped to, because I can never get it in the right position, but okay. How Sir Richard of the Lee paid his debts. The long highway stretched straight on, gray and dusty in the sun. On either side were dikes full of water, bordered by osiers, and far away in the distance stood the towers of Emmet Priory, with tall poplar trees around. Along the causeway rode a knight with a score of stout men-at-arms behind him. The knight was clad in a plain, long robe of grey serge, gathered in at the waist with a broad leathern belt, from which hung a long dagger, and a stout sword. But though he was so plainly dressed himself, the horse he rode was a noble barb, and its trappings were rich with silk and silver bells. Yet it's probably good news for your liver that you chose to go with the word lusty instead of stout for your drinking game. So thus the band journeyed along. Along the causeway between the dikes, till at last they reached the great gate of Emmet Priory. There, the knight called to one of his men, and bade him knock the porter's lodge with the heft of his sword. The porter was drowsing on his bench within the lodge, but at the knock he roused himself, and, opening the wicket, came hobbling forth and greeted the knight, while a tame starling that hung in a wicker cage within piped out, "In coelo quies, in coelo quies," such being the words that the poor old lame porter had taught him to speak. I don't speak Latin. Let's see what this starling has been taught to say. What? I posted it into Google and it said some results have been delisted consistent with local laws. What is the translation? It just keeps bringing up The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood by Howard Pyle. What's the actual... I don't know what it means, you guys. I'm sorry. Obviously need to quit streaming, go learn Latin, and then come back. Okay. In heaven there is rest? Is that what it means? Thank you. In heaven there is rest. What a depressing phrase to teach your bird to repeat over and over. This porter just can't wait to die. Okay. "Where is thy prior?" asked the knight of the old porter. "Oh, he is at meat, good knight, and he looketh for thy coming," quoth the porter. "For if I mistake not, thou art Sir Richard of the Lee." "I am Sir Richard of the Lee." "Then I will go seek him forthwith," said the knight. Off to bed after a 20+ hour date. Duck. Sleep well. Oh my goodness. Sleep well. It means work hard, rest when you are dead. It sounds really nihilistic. I don't know. Okay. "Oh, but shall I not send thy horse to stable?" said the porter. "By Our Lady, it is the noblest nag, and the best harness that e'er I saw in all my life before," and he stroked the horse's flank with his palm. "Nay," quoth Sir Richard, "the stables of this place are not for me, so make way, I prithee." So saying, he pushed forward, and the gates being opened, he entered the stony courtyard of the priory, his men behind him. In they came with rattle of steel and clashing of swords and ring of horses' feet on cobblestones, whereat a flock of pigeons that strutted in the sun flew with flapping wings to the high eaves of the round towers. While the knight was riding along the causeway to Emmet, a merry feast was toward in the refectory there. The afternoon sun streamed in through the great arched windows and lay in broad squares of light upon the stone floor, and across the board, covered with a snowy linen cloth, whereon was spread a princely feast. At the head of the table sat Prior Vincent of Emmet, all clad in soft robes of fine cloth and silk. On his head was a black velvet cap, picked out with gold, and around his neck hung a heavy chain of gold, with a great locket pendant therefrom. Beside him, on the arm of his great chair, roosted his favourite falcon, for the prior was fond of the gentle craft of hawking. On his right hand sat the Sheriff of Nottingham, in rich robes of purple, all trimmed about with fur, and on his left a famous doctor of law, in dark and sober garb. Below these sat the high cellarer of Emmet, and others chief among the brethren. Jest and laughter passed around, and all was as merry could be. The wizened face of the man of law was twisted into a wrinkled smile, for in his pouch were 80 golden angels that the prior had paid him in fee for the case betwixt him and Sir Richard of the Lee. The learned doctor had been paid beforehand, for he had not overmuch trust in the holy Vincent of Emmet. Hi, Moonstar, welcome back. Oh, thank you. Quoth the Sheriff of Nottingham, "But thou art sure, Sir Prior, that thou hast the land so safe?" "Ay, marry," said Prior Vincent, smacking his lips after a deep draught of wine, "I have kept a close watch upon him, albeit he was unawares of the same, and I know right well that he hath no money to pay me withal." "Aye, Drew," said the man of law in a dry, husky voice, "his land is surely forfeit, if he cometh not to pay. But, Sir Prior, thou must get a release beneath his sign manual, or else thou canst not hope to hold the land without trouble from him." Yea. Sorry. I want to clarify, when I'm saying yay, it's Y-E-A, like yes. He's not like huzzah, hip hip hooray. "Yea," said the prior, "so thou hast told me ere now, but I know that this knight is so poor that he will gladly sign away his lands for 200 pounds of hard money." Then up spake the cellarer, "Methinks it is a shame to so drive a misfortunate knight to the ditch. I think it sorrow that the noblest estate in Derbyshire should so pass away from him for a paltry 500 pounds. Truly, How now?" broke in the prior in a quivering voice, his eyes glistening and his cheeks red with anger. "Dost thou prate to my very beard, sirrah? By Saint Hubert, thou wouldst best save thy breath to cool thy pottage, else it may scald thy mouth." "Nay," said the man of law smoothly, "I dare swear the same knight will never come to settlement this day, but will prove recreant. Nevertheless, we will seek some means to gain his lands from him, so never fear." Hi, Matthews. Hello. Study for 2 hours, start at 11 p.m. Thank you for stream help focus. Oh, I'm glad it did, Matthews. Good luck on if you have an exam or whatever you were studying for. I hope you sleep well. I did not say yay lustily. That's crazy. Campily, maybe. Yay, said the prior. But even as the doctor spoke, there came a sudden clatter of horses' hoofs and a jingle of iron mail in the courtyard below. Then up spake the prior and called upon one of the brethren that sat below the salt, and bade him look out of the window and see who was below, albeit he knew right well it could be none but Sir Richard. So the brother arose and went and looked, and he said, "I see below a score of stout men-at-arms, and a knight just dismounting from his horse, who is dressed in long robes of grey, which methinks are of poor seeming, Oh, but the horse he rideth upon hath the richest coursing that ever I saw. The knight dismounts, and they come this way, and are even now below in the great hall. Lo, see there now, quoth Prior Vincent. Here you have a knight with so lean a purse as scarce can buy him a crust of bread to munch, yet he keeps a band of retainers and puts rich trappings upon his horse's hide, while his own back goeth bare. Is it not well that such men should be brought low? But thou art sure, said the little doctor tremulously, that this knight will do us no harm. Such as he are fierce when crossed, and he hath a band of naughty men at his heels. Mayhap thou hadst better give an extension of his debt. Thus he spake, for he was afraid Sir Richard might do him a harm. Thou needst not fear, said the prior, looking down at the little man beside him. This knight is gentle, and would as soon think of harming an old woman as thee. As the prior finished, the door at the lower end of the refectory swung open, and in came Sir Richard, with folded hands and head bowed upon his breast. Thus humbly he walked slowly up the hall, while his men-at-arms stood about the door. When he had come to where the prior sat, he knelt upon one knee. Save and keep thee, Sir Prior, said he. I am come to keep my day. Then the first word that the prior said to him was, Where hast thou brought my money? Alas, I have not so much as one penny upon my body, said the knight, whereat the prior's eyes sparkled. Now, thou art a shrewd debtor, I wot, said he. Then, Sir Sheriff, I drink to thee. But still the knight kneeled upon the hard stones, so the prior turned to him again. What wouldst thou have? Quoth he sharply. At these words, a slow red mounted into the knight's cheeks, but still he knelt. I would crave thy mercy, said he, as thou hopest for heaven's mercy. Show mercy to me. Strip me not of my lands, and so reduce a true knight to poverty. Thy day is broken, and thy lands forfeit, said the man of law, plucking up his spirits at the knight's humble speech. Quoth Sir Richard, Thou man of law, wilt thou not befriend me in mine hour of need? Nay, said the other, I hold with this holy prior, who hath paid me my fees in hard gold, so that I am bounder to him. Wilt thou not be my friend, Sir Sheriff? Said Sir Richard. Nay, for heaven, quoth the Sheriff of Nottingham, this is no business of mine. Yet I will do what I may, and he nudged the prior beneath the cloth with his knee. Would thou not ease him of some of his debts, Sir Prior? At this, the prior smiled grimly. Pay me 300 pounds, Sir Richard, said he, and I will give thee quittance of thy debt. Thou knowest, Sir Prior, that it is as easy for me to pay 400 pounds as 300, said Sir Richard. But wilt thou not give me another 12-month to pay my debt? Not another day, said the prior sternly. And is this all thou wilt do for me? Asked the knight. Now, out upon thee, false knight, cried the prior, bursting forth in anger. Either pay thy debt, as I have said, or release thy land, and get thee gone from out my hall. Then Sir Richard arose to his feet. Now, false, lying priest, said he, in so stern a voice that the man of law shrunk affrighted. I am no false knight, as thou knowest full well, but have even held my place in the press and the tourney. Hast thou so little courtesy that thou wouldst see a true knight kneel for all this time, or see him come into thy hall and never offer him meat or drink? Then quoth the man of law in a trembling voice, This is surely an ill way to talk of matters appertaining to business. Let us be mild in speech. What wilt thou pay this knight, Sir Prior, to give thee release of his land? I would have given him 200 pounds, quoth the prior, but since he hath spoken so vilely to my teeth, not one groat over 100 pounds will he get. Hadst thou offered me 1,000 pounds, false prior, said the knight, thou wouldst not have got an inch of my land. Then, turning to where his men-at-arms stood near the door, he called, Come hither, and beckoned with his finger, whereupon the tallest of them all came forward and handed him a long leathern bag. Sir Richard took the bag and shot from it upon the table a glittering stream of golden money. Bear in mind, Sir Prior, said he, that thou hast promised me quittance for 300 pounds. Not 1 farthing above that shalt thou get. So saying, he counted out 300 pounds and pushed it toward the prior. But now the prior's hands dropped at his sides, and the prior's head hung upon his shoulder, for not only had he lost all hopes of the land, but he had forgiven the knight 100 pounds of his debt, and had needlessly paid the man of law 80 angels. To him he turned, and quoth he, Give me back my money that thou hast. Nay, cried the other shrilly, it is but my fee that thou didst pay me, and thou gettest it not back again. And he hugged his gown about him. Hi, Synchovy. Oh gosh. I'll probably be on for like at least another hour. Yeah. Now, Sir Prior, quoth Sir Richard, I have held my day and paid all the dues demanded of me. So, as there is no more betwixt us, I leave this vile place straightway. So saying, he turned upon his heel and strode away. All this time the sheriff had been staring with wide open eyes and mouth agape at the tall man-at-arms, who stood as though carved out of stone. At last he gasped out, Reynold Greenleaf. At this, the tall man-at-arms, who was no other than Little John, turned, grinning, to the sheriff. Why, give thee good den, fair gossip, quoth he. I would say, sweet sheriff, that I have heard all thy pretty talk this day, and it shall be duly told unto Robin Hood. So farewell for the nonce, till we meet again in Sherwood Forest. Then he also turned and followed Sir Richard down the hall, leaving the sheriff, all pale and amazed, shrunk together upon his chair. Dude, they've done such psychic damage to the sheriff that just seeing Little John, who, if you were there for that, there's a few chapters where Little John pretends to be a man named Reynold Greenleaf and works for the sheriff, and the sheriff really likes him. And Little John just like lives with the sheriff for 6 months because the weather is gross outside, and then when the weather's nice, he like ransacks the place and steals things and goes back to Robin Hood. But just like a glimpse of him, and the sheriff's like, Hi, Marcouche. Hello. A merry feast it was to which Sir Richard came, but a sorry lot he left behind him, and little hunger had they for the princely food spread before them. Only the learned doctor was happy, for he had his fee. Now, a 12-month and a day passed since Prior Vincent of Emmet sat at feast, and once more the mellow fall of another year had come. But the year had brought great change, I wot, to the lands of Sir Richard of the Lee. For where before shaggy wild grasses grew upon the meadowlands, now all stretch away in golden stubble, betokening that a rich and plentiful crop had been gathered therefrom. A year had made a great change in the castle, also, for where were empty moats and the crumbling of neglect, all was now orderly and well kept. Bright shone the sun on battlement and tower, and in the blue air overhead a hawk of clattering jackdaws flew around the gilded weather vane and spire. Then, in the brightness of the morning, the drawbridge fell across the moat with a rattle and clank of chains. The gate of the castle swung slowly open, and a goodly array of steel-clad men-at-arms, with a knight all clothed in chainmail, as white as frost on briar and thorn of winter morning, came flashing out from the castle courtyard. In his hand, the knight held a great spear, from the point of which fluttered a blood-red pennant as broad as the palm of one's hand. So, this troop came forth from the castle, and in the midst of them walked 3 pack-horses, laden with parcels of diverse shapes and kinds. Thus rode forth good Sir Richard of the Lee to pay his debt to Robin Hood this bright and merry morn. Along the highway they wended their way with measured tramp of feet and rattle and jingle of sword and harness. Onward they marched till they came nigh to Denby, where, from the top of a hill, they saw, over beyond the town, many gay flags and streamers floating in the bright air. Then Sir Richard turned to the man-at-arms nearest to him. "What is toward yonder at Denby today?" quoth he. "Please your worship," answered the man-at-arms, "it looks like the Pride Parade is down there, with yon gay flags." "Please your worship," answered the man-at-arms, "a merry fair is held there today, and a great wrestling match, to which many folks have come, for a prize hath been offered of a pipe of red wine, a fair golden ring, and a pair of gloves, all of which go to the best wrestler." Okay, that doesn't really change what I said, does it? I maintain. Oh, boys, if you do this wrestling, you'll get a fancy new pair of gloves. Okay. Now, by my faith, quoth Sir Richard, who loved good manly sports right well. Yeah, you do. This will be a goodly thing to see. Methinks we have to stay a little while on our journey and see this merry sport. So he turned his horse's head aside toward Denby and the fair, and thither he and his men made their way. No, Richard, you're gonna get looted, and then you're not gonna have the stuff to get back to Robin Hood. There they found a great hubbub of merriment. Flags and streamers were floating, tumblers were tumbling on the green, bagpipes were playing, and lads and lasses were dancing to the music. But the crowd were gathered most of all around a ring where the wrestling was going forward, and thither Sir Richard and his men turned their steps. Now, when the judges of the wrestling saw Sir Richard coming and knew who he was, the chief of them came down from the bench where he and the others sat, and went to the knight and took him by the hand, beseeching him to come and sit with them and judge the sport. So Sir Richard got down from his horse and went with the others to the bench raised beside the ring. Now, there had been great doings that morning, for a certain yeoman named Egbert, who came from Stoke over in Staffordshire, had thrown with ease all those who came against him. But a man of Denby well known through all the countryside as William of the Scar, had been biding his time with the Stokeman. So, when Egbert had thrown everyone else, Stout William leapt into the ring. Then a tough bout followed, and at last he threw Egbert heavily. Whereat there was a great shouting and shaking of hands, for all the Denby men were proud of their wrestler. Sorry, my mind started reciting Humpty Dumpty there. Poor little Egbert. When Sir Richard came, he found Stout William, puffed up by the shouts of his friends, walking up and down the ring, daring anyone to come and try a throw with him. "Come one, come all," quoth he. "Here stand I, William of the Scar, against any man. If there is none in Derbyshire to come against me, come all who will from Nottingham, Stafford, or York. And if I do not make them one and all root the ground with their noses like swine in the forests, call me no more brave William the wrestler." At this, all laughed, but above all the laughter a loud voice was heard to cry out, "What's in thou talkest so big? Here cometh one from Nottinghamshire to try a fall with thee, fellow." And straightway a tall youth with a tough quarterstaff in his hand came pushing his way through the crowd, and at last leaped lightly over the rope into the ring. He was not as heavy as Stout William, but he was taller and broader in the shoulders, and all his joints were well knit. Sir Richard looked upon him keenly, then, turning to one of the judges, he said, "Knowest thou who this youth is? Methinks I've seen him before." "Oh, nay," said the judge, "he's a stranger to me." Meantime, without a word, the young man this can be Will Scarlet, right? This is Will Scarlet, I'm guessing, who's huge, right? If you'd kept Stout and Yeoman as your drinking words, you'd be so fucked up by now. Yeah, you would. Yeah, we haven't really had Lusty much. I mean, coming up in this next paragraph, we've got Naked and Jerkin, but not Lusty. Okay. Meantime, without a word, the young man, laying aside his quarterstaff, began to take off his jerkin and body clothing, until he presently stood with naked arms and body, and a comely sight he was when so bared to the view, for his muscles were cut round and smooth and sharp, like swift running water. And now each man spat upon his hands, and clapping them upon his knees, squatted down, watching the other keenly, so as to take the vantage of him in the grip. Then, like a flash, they leapt together, and a great shout went up, for William had gotten the better hold of the two. For a short time they strained and struggled and writhed, and then Stout William gave his most cunning trip and throw. But the stranger met it with greater skill than his, and so the trip came to naught. Then, of a sudden, with a twist and a wrench, the stranger loosed himself, and he of the scar found himself locked in a pair of arms that fairly made his ribs crack. So, with heavy, hot breathing, they stood for a while, straining, their bodies all glistening with sweat, and great drops of sweat trickling down their faces. But the stranger's hug was so close that at last Stout William's muscles softened under his grip, and he gave a sob. Okay, this is very intimate. Oh my goodness. Then the youth put forth all his strength and gave a sudden trip with his heel and cast over his right hip. And down stout William went with a sickening thud, and lay as though he would never move hand nor foot again. Tombert, wait, hey Will, thank you for gifting us up to Tombert. Oh my goodness, thank you. Yeah, a little spit on the hands before you get down on your knees. Absolutely. It's just boys being lads. It's fine. But now, no shout went up for the stranger, but an angry murmur was heard among the crowd, so easily had he won the match. Then one of the judges, a kinsman to William of the Scar, rose with trembling lip and baleful look. Quoth he, "If thou hast slain that man, it will go ill with thee. Let me tell thee, fellow." But the stranger answered boldly, "He took his chance with me, as I took mine with him. No law can touch me to harm him, no law can touch me to harm me, even if I slew him, so that it was fairly done in the wrestling ring." "That we shall see," said the judge, scowling upon the youth, while once more an angry murmur ran around the crowd, for as I have said, the men of Denby were proud of stout William of the Scar. Then up spoke Sir Richard gently. "Nay," said he, "the youth is right. If the other dieth, he dieth in the wrestling ring, where he took his chance, and was cast fairly enow." Kaisi King, welcome and thank you for the follow. Hello, hello. But, in the meantime, 3 men had come forward and lifted stout William from the ground, and found that he was not dead, though badly shaken by his heavy fall. Then the chief judge rose and said, "Young man, the prize is duly thine. Here is your red gold ring, and here the gloves, and yonder stands the pipe of wine to do whatsoever thou dost list." At this, the youth, who had donned his clothes and taken up his staff again, bowed without a word, then taking the gloves and the ring, and thrusting the one into his girdle and slipping the other upon his thumb, he turned, and leaping lightly over the ropes again, made his way through the crowd, and was gone. Sloopy too, thank you for the follow. Hello, hello. Of course, Kaisi King. "Now, I wonder who yon youth may be," said the judge, turning to Sir Richard. "He seemeth like a stout Saxon from his red cheeks and fair hair. This William of ours is a stout man too, and never have I seen him cast in the ring before, albeit he hath not yet striven with such great wrestlers as Thomas of Cornwall, Dickon of York, and a young David of Doncaster." "David of Doncaster? Hath he not a firm foot in the ring, thinkest thou, Sir Richard?" "Aye, truly. And yet this youth threw him fairly, and with wondrous ease. I much wonder who he can be." Thus said Sir Richard in a thoughtful voice. Captain Charlie Foxtrot, thank you for the follow. Hello. It's a lot of stout. Too much stout, not enough lusty. Come on, Howard Pyle. Give us what we want. For a time, the knight stood talking to those about him. But at last he arose and made ready to depart. So he called his men about him, and tightening the girths of his saddle, he mounted his horse once more. Meanwhile, the young stranger had made his way through the crowd, but as he passed, he heard all around him such words muttered as, "Look at the cockerel! Behold how he plumeth himself! What dare swear he gets good William unfairly.
Yea, truly, saw ye not birdlime upon his hands?
Or it will be well to cut his coxcomb. To all this the stranger paid no heed, but strode proudly about as though he heard it not. This wild how many bird insults there are. Very bird themed. So he walked slowly across the green to where the booth stood wherein was dancing, and standing at the door he looked in on the sport. As he stood thus, a stone struck his arm of a sudden with a sharp jar, and turning, he saw that an angry crowd of men had followed him from the wrestling ring. Then, when they saw him turn so, a great hooting and yelling arose from all, so that the folk came running out from the dancing booth to see what was to do. At last, a tall, broad-shouldered, burly blacksmith strode forward from the crowd, swinging a mighty blackthorn club in his hand. What do you think of I enjoy the dialogue a lot. I find it really funny. He says, okay. Ooh, bellow of an angry bull. Okay.
Wouldst thou,
Oh, sorry, guys.
wouldst thou come here to our fair town of Denby, thou jack-in-the-box, to overcome a good honest lad with vile juggling tricks?
Growled he, in a deep voice, like the bellow of an angry bull.
Take that, then.
And of a sudden he struck a blow at the youth that might have felled an ox. But the other turned the blow deftly aside, and gave back another so terrible that the Denby man went down with a groan, as though he had been smitten by lightning. When they saw their leader fall, the crowd gave another angry shout. But the stranger placed his back against the tent near which he stood, swinging his terrible staff. And so fell had been the blow that he struck the stout smith, that none dared to come within the measure of his cudgel. So the press crowded back like a pack of dogs from a bear at bay. But now some coward hand from behind threw a sharp, jagged stone that smote the stranger on the crown, so that he staggered back, and the red blood gushed from the cut and ran down his face and over his jerkin. Then, seeing him dazed with this vile blow, the crowd rushed upon him, so that they overbore him, and he fell beneath their feet. Now, it might have gone ill with the youth, even to the losing of his young life, had not Sir Richard come to this fair, for of a sudden shouts were heard, and steel flashed in the air, and blows were given with the flat of swords, while through the midst of the crowd Sir Richard of the Lee came spurring on his white horse. Then the crowd, seeing the steel-clad knight and the armed men, melted away like snow on a warm hearth, leaving the young man all bloody and dusty upon the ground. Finding himself free, the youth arose and, wiping the blood from his face, looked up. Quoth he, "Sir Richard of the Lee, mayhap thou hast saved my life this day." "Who art thou that knowest Sir Richard of the Lee so well?" quoth the knight. "Methinks I have seen thy face before, young man." "Yea, thou hast," said the youth, "for men call me David of Doncaster." "Oh, it's not Will Scarlet. Oh, shit. To be fair, I don't think they ever describe what David of Doncaster looks like. And they have described that Will Scarlet is like a really big, broad-shouldered dude, so I just assumed. Flora Lember. Oh my goodness. How are you doing? How's your vacay going? How was the rest of your birthday? Aw, Aniki, thank you for the 100 biddies. said Sir Richard. I wonder that I knew thee not, David, but thy beard hath grown longer, and thou thyself art more set in manhood since this day 12 month. Come hither into the tent, David, and wash the blood from thy face. And thou, Ralph, bring him straightway a clean jerkin. Now, I am sorry for thee, yet I am right glad that I have had a chance to pay a part of my debt of kindness to thy good master Robin Hood, for it might have gone ill with thee had I not come, young man. So saying, the knight led David into the tent, and there the youth washed the blood from his face and put on the clean jerkin. Oh, Nat, that's so exciting. There are plenty of stout, lusty yeomen. It could have been true, but like Will Scarlet has been specifically described, and like as one of the youth. I feel like the only youths that they talk about are Will Scarlet, David of Doncaster, who's never been physically described before, and the bard, the minstrel. You're just taking excuses to take shots. Really, Nat? Okay, I will check it out after stream. I loved your travel photos that you shared in there. The dude and his wife? It hasn't been clarified whether they live in the forest, but when they did, like, kidnap the bishop, and when, the night, when they were in the woods, the minstrel was there and played a song. What do you mean, ew, minstrel? What do you mean? What do you mean, ew, minstrel? Yeah, minstrel, that was the song. Totally, yeah. Is she living with the horses in the stable? I don't know if they have a stable. Maybe she lives at the Blue Boar Inn. Or maybe they live, like, on the outskirts of the forest or something, and they just fetch him when they want a minstrel around. Are you saying all these men in the forest aren't stable? They are kind of crazy. I will not sing that song. I do my best to not sing. Sometimes authors force me to. Gasp. Oh, Nat, that's wonderful. Okay. So saying, the knight led David into the tent. Oh, I read that already. Okay. In the meantime, a whisper had gone around from those that stood nearest that this was none other than the great David of Doncaster, the best wrestler in all the mid-country, who only last spring had cast stout Adam a Lincoln in the ring at Selby, in Yorkshire, and now held the mid-country champion belt. Thus it happened that when young David came forth from the tent, along with Sir Richard, the blood all washed from his face, and his soiled jerkin changed for a clean one, no sounds of anger were heard, but all pressed forward to see the young man, feeling proud that one of the great wrestlers of England should have entered the ring at Denby Fair. For thus fickle is a mass of men. Then Sir Richard called aloud, "Friends, this is David of Doncaster, so think it no shame that your Denby man was cast by such a wrestler. We beareth you no ill will for what hath passed, but let it be a warning to you how ye treat strangers henceforth. Had ye slain him, it would have been an ill day for you, for Robin Hood would have harried your town as the kestrel harries the dovecot. I have bought the pipe of twine. Oh, wait. I have bought the pipe of wine from him, and now I give it freely to you to drink as ye list, but never hereafterward fall upon a man for being a stout yeoman." A raid? Sunny Brina, hello, welcome in, raiders. Welcome in. Sabrina, love coming your way. Hi, Sinchovi. Hi, Jordan. Thank you so much for the raid. Oh my goodness. Sunny Brina, how was your stream? What did you guys get up to tonight? Welcome in. Never fall upon a man for being a stout yeoman, or there will be a less steep price to pay. Indeed. Oh my goodness. What are you guys getting up to tonight? For anyone new here, hello, I'm Faolkor. We do a mixture here of traditional ASMR, usually soft-spoken and chatty, and then also reading content. So during the reading portion of the stream, we do have trigger redeems paused while we do story time, but then we open those back up again after story time is done. But yeah, it is so awesome to have you here. Oh, Leia over on YouTube. Hi, Leia. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We are reading The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood. It is quite entertaining, in my humble opinion. So yeah, if you'd like some cozy, silly story time, we are so happy to have you here. And Sabrina, if you need to pop out right away, don't worry about that. Feel free to head out whenever you need to rest after your own stream. But yeah, thank you so much. Heck yeah, the merry man. She's sick, might be gone already. Oof, that was me on Tuesday. Totally understand if that's the case. Okay. Getting more books to rest my arm on. Well, okay. Man, this crowd is fickle, right? They find out, oh wait, he's a famous guy that our guy lost to. Well, that's okay then. That's okay then. At this, all shouted amain. But in truth, they thought more of the wine than of the knight's words. Then Sir Richard, with David beside him and his men-at-arms around, turned about and left the fair. But in after days, when the men that saw that wrestling bout were bent with age, they would shake their heads when they heard of any stalwart game and say, Aye, but thou shouldst have seen the great David of Doncaster cast out William of the Scar at Denby Fair. Robin Hood stood in the merry greenwood, with Little John and most of his stout yeomen around him, awaiting Sir Richard's coming. At last, a glint of steel was seen through the brown forest leaves. And forth from the covert, into the open, rode Sir Richard at the head of his men. He came straight forward to Robin Hood, and, leaping from off his horse, clasped the yeoman in his arms. "What, how now?" said Robin, after a time, holding Sir Richard off and looking at him from top to toe. "Methinks thou art a gayer bird than when I saw thee last." "Yes, thanks to thee, Robin," said the knight, laying his hand upon the yeoman's shoulder. This is, you barely have to change anything to make this yaoi. Like, you can keep so many of the original lines. I'm sorry. Oh, Christ. "Yes, thanks to thee, Robin," said the knight, laying his hand upon the yeoman's shoulder. "But for thee I would have been wandering in misery in a far country by this time. But I have kept my word, Robin, and have brought back the money that thou didst lend me, and which I have doubled 4 times over again, and so become rich once more. Along with this money I have brought a little gift to thee and thy brave men, from my dear lady and myself." Then, bringing his men, he called aloud, "Bring forth the pack horses." But Robin stopped him. "Nay, Sir Richard," said he, "think it not bold of me to cross thy bidding, but we of Sherwood do no business till after we have eaten and drunk. Whereupon, taking Sir Richard by the hand, he led him to the seat beneath the greenwood tree, while others of the chief men of the band came and seated themselves around. Then, quoth Robin, how cometh it that I saw young David of Doncaster with thee and thy men, Sir Knight? Then straightway the knight told all about his stay at Denby, and of the happening at the fair, and how it was like to go hard with young David. So he told his tale, and quoth he, it was this, good Robin, that kept me so late on the way, otherwise I would have been here an hour agone. Then, when he had done speaking, Robin stretched out his hand and grasped the knight's palm. Quoth he in a trembling voice, I owe thee a debt I can never hope to repay, Sir Richard, for let me tell thee, I would rather lose my right hand than have such ill befall young David of Doncaster as seemed like to come upon him at Denby. Antony, Antony, welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Please let me know how to properly say your name. It's so good to have you here. So they talked until after a while one came forward to say that the feast was spread, whereupon all rose and went thereto. When at last it was done, the knight called upon his men to bring the pack horses forward, which they did according to his bidding. Then one of the men brought the knight a strong box, which he opened and took from it a bag and counted out 500 pounds, the sum he had gotten from Robin. Sir Richard, quoth Robin, thou wilt pleasure us all if thou wilt keep that money as a gift from us of Sherwood. Is it not so, my lads? What are you he's rich. He just said that he's rich now. Take the money and give it to charity. What are you doing, Robin? Like, he was the charity for a while, which is why they gave him the third that was meant for charity, and now he's not only recouped that cost, but quadrupled it. Do you know how many people need this money more? You're terrible at being a philanthropist criminal, Robin. Is it not so, my lads? Then all shouted, aye, with a mighty voice. I thank you all deeply, said the knight earnestly, but think it not ill of me if I cannot take it. Gladly have I borrowed it from you, but it may not be that I can take it as a gift. Then Robin Hood said no more, but gave the money to Little John to put away in the treasury, for he had shrewdness enough to know that naught breeds ill will and heart bitterness, like gifts forced upon one that cannot choose but take them. Then Sir Richard had the packs laid upon the ground and opened, whereupon a great shout went up that made the forest ring again, for lo, there were 10 score bows of finest Spanish yew, all burnished till they shone again, and each bow inlaid with fanciful figures in silver, yet not inlaid so as to mar their strength. Beside these were 10 score quivers of leather embroidered with golden thread, and in each quiver were a score of shafts and burnished heads that shone like silver. Each shaft was feathered with peacock's plumes, inoct with silver. Sir Richard gave to each yeoman a bow and a quiver of arrows, but to Robin he gave a stout bow inlaid with the cunningest workmanship in gold, while each arrow in his quiver was inoct with gold. Then all shouted again for joy of the fair gift, and all swore among themselves that they would die, if need be, for Sir Richard and his lady. At last the time came when Sir Richard must go, whereupon Robin Hood called his band around him, and each man of the yeomen took a torch in his hand to light the way through the woodlands. So they came to the edge of Sherwood, and there the knight kissed Robin upon the cheeks, and left him, and was gone. Thus Robin Hood helped a noble knight out of his dire misfortunes, that else would have smothered the happiness from his life. End of chapter. He kissed him 4 times? I thought it was just twice. He kissed him upon the cheeks. Doesn't say how many times upon each cheek. Oh, it's Cloud's turn in the gift box. See, they take turns getting to sleep in the present, which is so, so cute.
Are you comfy in there, Cloud? Yeah.
Hello. Doesn't say which cheeks. Oh my god. Yeah, true. Hi, Collector. Doing alright. How are you doing? Good to see you. Okay, well, we should read another. Oof. Ooh. Oof. I'm just curious. Hi. Yes, I do. Welcome to chat. Yes, I do. Here, I'll show you again. This is hold on, let me there's the zoom in. Okay. The little one that's kind of orangey with the white stripe on her nose, that's Nimbus. And the long-haired one whose face is behind the stocking, that's Cloud. Yeah. And they are a frequent part of the stream. They perform ASMR. They wear costumes. Yeah. If I hit 400k bits given, do I get another emote? Oh my god. You're not close to that, are you? What? Didn't we just only pass like 100k needing a thing? Flew over the death of it. What? You got the flu? I'm sorry. I don't know what the next one is. Let me check. I can easily check, actually. Oh my god. No, wait, the mush one was for 300. There's not one uploaded for 400. No. I would have to make one. Okay. Well, let's keep reading. You had a gig last night. I have another tonight. Or, oh my gosh. Busy. Do you earn one at 400k? Yeah, theoretically. But I don't have one uploaded. But there is a spot to upload one for 400k, yes. Okay. Ooh, this chapter is called Little John Turns Barefoot Friar. Cold winter had passed, and spring had come. No leafy thickness had yet clad the woodlands, but the budding leaves hung like a tender mist about the trees. In the open country, the meadowlands lay a sheeny green, the cornfields a dark velvety color, for they were thick and soft with the growing blades. The ploughboy shouted in the sun, and in the purple new-turned furrows, flocks of birds hunted for fat worms. All the broad, moist earth smiled in the warm light, and each little green hill clapped its hand for joy. On a deer's hide, stretched on the ground in the open in front of the greenwood tree, sat Robin Hood, basking in the sun like an old dog fox. Fox Robin Hood! Here we go. Leaning back with his hands clasped about his knees, he lazily watched Little John rolling a stout bowstring from long strands of hempen thread, wetting the palms of his hands ever and anon, and rolling the cord upon his thigh. Nearby sat Allan a Dale, fitting a new string to his harp. Quoth Robin at last, "Methinks I would rather roam this forest in the gentle springtime than be king of all merry England. What palace in the broad world is as fair as this sweet woodland just now? And what king in all the world hath such an appetite for plovers' eggs and lampreys as I for juicy venison and sparkling ale? Gaverth Swanthold speaks truly when he saith, better a crust with content than honey with a sour heart." "Yea," quoth Little John, as he rubbed his new-made bowstring with yellow beeswax. "The life we lead is the life for me. Thou speakest of the springtime, but methinks even the winter hath its own joys. Thou and I, good master, have had more than one merry day this winter past at the Blue Boar. Dost thou not remember that night thou and Will Stutely and Friar Tuck and I passed at that same hostelry with the two beggars and the strolling friar?" "Yea," quoth merry Robin, laughing, "that was the night that Will Stutely must needs snatch a kiss from the stout hostess, and got a cannikin of ale emptied over his head for his pains." "Truly, it was the same," said Little John, laughing also. "Methinks that was a goodly song that the strolling friar sang. Friar Tuck, thou hast a quick ear for a tune. Dost thou not remember it?" Oh God, what voice did I give to Tuck?
"I did have a catch of it one time," said Tuck. "Let me see."
And he touched his forefinger to his forehead in thought, humming to himself and stopping ever and anon to fit what he had got to what he searched for in his mind. Powerade Azul, welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Hello, hello. At last he found it all, and, clearing his throat, sang merrily. "In the blossoming hedge the robin cock sings, for the sun it is merry and bright, and he joyfully hops and he flutters his wings, for his heart is all full of delight. For the May bloometh fair, and there's little to care, and plenty to eat in the Maytime rare. When the flowers all die, then off will he fly, to keep himself warm in some jolly old barn, where the snow and the wind neither chill him nor harm. And such is the life of the strolling friar, with a plenty to eat and to drink, for the good wife will keep him a seat by the fire, and the pretty girls smile at his wink. Then he lustily trolls as he onward strolls, a rollicking song for the saving of souls. When the wind doth blow with the coming of snow, there's a place by the fire for the fatherly friar, and a crab in the bowl for his heart's desire." Thus Friar Tuck sang in a rich and mellow voice, rolling his head from side to side in time with the music, and when he had done, all clapped their hands and shouted with laughter, for the song fitted him well. "In very sooth," quoth Little John, "it is a goodly song, and were I not a yeoman a Sherwood Forest, I'd rather be a strolling friar than aught else in the world." "Yea, it is a goodly song," said Robin Hood, "but methought those two burly beggars told the merrier tales and led the merrier life. Dost thou not remember what that great black-bearded fellow told of his begging at the fair in York?" "Yea," said Little John, "but what told the Friar of the Harvest home in Kentshire? Well, I hold that he led a merrier life than the other two." "Truly, for the honour of the cloth," quoth Friar Tuck. "I hold with my good gossip, Little John."
Now, quoth Robin, I hold to mine own mind. But what sayest thou, Little John, to a merry adventure this fair day? Take thou a friar's gown from our chest of strange garments, and don the same, and I will stop the first beggar I meet and change clothes with him. Then let us wander the country about this sweet day, and see what befalls each of us. That fitteth my mind, quoth Little John, so let us forth, say I. Wait, he's gonna send some beggar off, dressed head to toe in Lincoln green, and then, like, the sheriff's gonna come upon this poor beggar and think he's one of Robin Hood's band and, like, imprison him. Alright. Thereupon Little John and Friar Tuck went to the storehouse of the band, and there chose for the yeoman the robe of a grey friar. Then they came forth again, and a mighty roar of laughter went up, for not only had the band never seen Little John in such guise before, but the robe was too short for him by a good palm's breadth. But Little John's hands were folded in his loose sleeves, and Little John's eyes were cast upon the ground, and at his girdle hung a great long string of beads. And now Little John took up his stout staff, at the end of which hung a chubby little leathern pottle, such as palmers carry at the tips of their staves. But in it was something, I wot, more like good Malmsey than cold spring water, such as godly pilgrims carry. Then up rose Robin and took his stout staff in his hand likewise, and slipped 10 golden angels into his pouch, for no beggar's garb was among the stores of the band, so he was fain to run his chance of meeting a beggar and buying his clothes of him. So, all being made ready, the two yeomen set forth on their way, striding lustily along in the misty morning. Thus they walked on the forest path until they came to the highway, and then along the highway till it split in twain, leading on one hand to Blythe, and on the other to Gainsborough. Here the yeoman stopped. You mix Little Red Riding Hood with the Adventures of Robin Hood. Oh, now that's understandable. Understandable. Dude, I don't know if I'm crazy for this, but all these stories just make me think that, like, if these characters existed in the modern day, they would all be fucking YouTubers and streamers, you know, doing reaction videos like, I paid a homeless man for his clothes and then pretended to be homeless all day to see how I was treated. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they're just doing shit. You hate those, but yeah, I think they'd kind of be nuisance streamers a little bit. I'm sorry. Recording themselves being generous for clout? Yeah, I feel like they'd be doing shit like that. Creating problems they can solve while live stream. Yeah, because they're just like getting shits and giggles out of it. Okay. Quoth jolly Robin, take thou the road to Gainsborough, and I will take that to Blythe. So, fare thee well, holy father, and mayst thou not have cause to count thy beads in earnest ere we meet again. Good den, good beggar that is to be, quoth Little John, and mayst thou have no cause to beg for mercy ere I see thee next. So, each stepped sturdily on his way until a green hill rose between them, and the one was hid from the sight of the other. Little John walked along, whistling, for no one was nigh upon all the road. In the budding hedges the little birds twittered merrily, and on either hand the green hills swept up to the sky, the great white clouds of springtime sailing slowly over their crowns in lazy flight. Uphill and down dale walked Little John, the fresh wind blowing in his face, and his robes fluttering behind him. And so, at last, he came to a crossroad that led to Tuxford. Here he met 3 pretty lasses, each bearing a basket of eggs to market. Quoth he, "Whither away, fair maids?" And he stood in their path, holding his staff in front of them to stop them. This is what I'm talking about. Then they huddled together and nudged one another, and one presently spake up and said, "We are going to the Duxford market, holy friar, to sell our eggs."
"Now, out upon it,"
quoth Little John, looking upon them with his head on one side.
"Surely it is a pity that such fair lasses should be forced to carry eggs to market. Let me tell you, and I at the shaping of things in this world, ye should all 3 have been clothed in the finest silks, and ride upon milk-white horses, with pages at your side, and feed upon nothing but whipped cream and strawberries, for such a life would surely befit your looks."
What are you referring to, Val? Just blocking these women from going about their business and, like, forcing them to talk. You know, like, all the YouTubers that are just, like, putting microphones in strangers' faces and asking them, like, intrusive questions and filming them. It's just, like, these characters give those vibes to me. I don't know. They're just like, he's, like, literally barring their way with a fucking staff, and they're huddling together, like... At this speech, all 3 of the pretty maids looked down, blushing and simpering. One said, "La," and another, "Marry, and maketh sport of us," and the third, "Listen now to the holy man." But at the same time, they looked at Little John from out the corners of their eyes. "John, they don't want to talk to you. Let the ladies go." They're uncomfortable. You're making them uncomfortable.
"Now look at you," said Little John. "I cannot see such dainty damsels as ye are carrying baskets along a high road. Let me take them mine own self, and one of you, if ye will, may carry my staff for me."
"Nay," said one of the lasses, "but thou canst not carry 3 baskets all at one time."
"Yea, but I can," said Little John, "and that I will show you presently. I thank the good Saint Wilfrid that he hath given me a pretty wit. Look ye now. Here I take this great basket, so. Here I tie my rosary around the handle, thus, and here I slip the rosary over my head and sling the basket upon my back, in this wise." And Little John did, according to his words, the basket hanging down behind him like a peddler's pack. Then, giving his staff to one of the maids, and taking a basket upon either arm, he turned his face toward Tuxford town and stepped forth merrily, a laughing maid on either side, and one walking ahead, carrying the staff. In this wise they journeyed along, and everyone they met stopped and looked after them, laughing, for nobody had ever seen such a merry sight as this tall, strapping grey friar, with robes all too short for him, laden with eggs, and tramping the road with 3 pretty lasses. For this Little John cared not a whit, but when such folks gave jesting words to him, he answered back as merrily, speech for speech. "Why are you shaking your fist at me? What? Why are you shaking your fist at me?" So they stopped along toward Tuxford, chatting and laughing, until they came nigh to the town. Here Little John stopped and set down the baskets, for he did not care to go into the town, lest he should, perchance, meet with some of the sheriff's men. "Alas, sweet chucks," quoth he, "here I must leave you. I had not thought to come this way, but I am glad I did so. Now, ere we part, we must drink sweet friendship."
So saying, he unslung the leathern pottle from the end of his staff, and, drawing the stopper therefrom, he handed it to the lass who had carried his staff, first wiping the mouth of the pottle upon his sleeve. Then each lass took a fair drink of what was within, and when it had passed all around, Little John finished what was left, so that not another drop could be squeezed from it. Then, kissing each lass sweetly, he wished them all good den and left them. But the maid stood looking after him as he walked away whistling. "What a pity," quoth one, "that such a stout, lusty lad should be in holy orders."
Drink up. Fist shaking is a sign of endearment? You could say that about literally anything. Like, oh no, throwing poop at people is a sign of endearment where I'm from. Like, how? I don't know where you're from. I can't prove this.
"Marry," quoth Little John to himself as he strode along, "yon was no such ill happening. St. Dunstan send me more of the like." After he had trudged along for a time, he began to wax thirsty again in the warm of the day. He shook his leathern pottle beside his ear, but not a sound came therefrom. Then he placed it to his lips and tilted it high aloft, but not a drop was there. "Little John, Little John," said he sadly to himself, shaking his head the while. Woman, singular, woman will be thy ruin yet, and if thou dost not take better care of thyself. But at last he reached the crest of a certain hill, and saw below a sweet little thatched inn lying snugly in the dale beneath him, toward which the road dipped sharply. At the sight of this, a voice within him cried aloud, "I give thee joy, good friend, for yonder is thy heart's delight," to wit, a sweet rest and a cup of brown beer.
Yes, that's right.
So he quickened his pace down the hill, and so came to the little inn, from which hung a sign with a stag's head painted upon it. In front of the door, a clucking hen was scratching in the dust, with a brood of chickens about her heels. The sparrows were chattering of household affairs under the eaves, and all was so sweet and peaceful that Little John's heart laughed within him. Beside the door stood 2 stout cobs with broad, soft-padded saddles, well fitted for easy traveling, and, speaking of rich guests in the parlor, in front of the door 3 merry fellows, a tinker, a peddler, and a beggar, were seated on a bench in the sun, quaffing stout ale. "I give you good den, sweet friends," quoth Little John, striding up to where they sat. "Oh, give thee good den, holy father," quoth the merry beggar with a grin. "But look thee, thy gown is too short. Thou hadst best cut a piece off the top and tack it to the bottom, so that it may be long enough. But come, sit beside us here and take a taste of ale, if thy vows forbid thee not." "Nay," quoth Little John, also grinning, "the blessed St. Dunstan hath given me a free dispensation for all indulgence in that line," and he thrust his hand into his pouch for money to pay his score. "Truly," quoth the tinker, "without thy looks belie thee, holy friar, the good St. Dunstan was wise, for without such dispensation his votary is like to have many a penance to make. Nay, take thy hand from out thy pouch, brother, for thou shalt not pay this shot. Oh, landlord, a pot of ale." So the ale was brought and given to Little John. Then, blowing the froth a little way to make room for his lips, he tilted the bottom of the pot higher and higher until it pointed to the sky, and he had to shut his eyes to keep the dazzle of the sunshine out of them. Then he took the pot away, for there was nothing in it, and heaved a full, deep sigh, looking at the others with moist eyes and shaking his head solemnly. "Oh, landlord," cried the peddler, "bring this good fellow another pot of ale, for truly it is a credit to us all to have one among us who can empty a cannikin so lustily." "Drink up." So they talked among themselves merrily, until after a while quoth Little John, "Who rideth those nags yonder?" "Oh, 2 holy men like thee, brother," quoth the beggar.
They are now having a goodly feast within, for I smelled the steam of a boiled pullet just now. The landlady saith that they come from Fountain Abbey in Yorkshire, and go to Lincoln on matters of business. They are a merry couple, said the tinker, for one is as lean as an old wife's spindle, and the other as fat as a suet pudding.
Talking of fatness, said the pedlar, thou thyself lookest none too ill-fed, holy friar. Nay, truly, said Little John, thou seest in me what the holy St. Dunstan can do for them that serve him upon a handful of parched peas and a trickle of cold water. At this, a great shout of laughter went up.
Truly, it is a wondrous thing, quoth the beggar. I would have made my vow to see the masterly manner in which thou didst tuck away yon pot of ale, that thou hadst not tasted clear water for a brace of months. Has not this same holy St. Dunstan taught thee a goodly song or two?
Why, as for that, quoth Little John, grinning, mayhap he hath lent me aid to learn a ditty or so.
Then, prithee, let us hear how he hath taught thee, quoth the tinker.
At this, Little John cleared his throat. At this, Little John cleared his throat, and after a word or two about a certain hoarseness that troubled him, sang thus. A pretty, pretty maid, whither dost thou go? I prithee, wait for thy lover also, and will gather the rose as it sweetly blows, for the merry, merry winds are blowing. Now, it seemed as though Little John's songs were never to get sung, for he had got no farther than this when the door of the inn opened, and out came the two brothers of Fountain Abbey, the landlord following them, and, as the saying is, washing his hands with humble soap. But when the brothers of Fountain Abbey saw who it was that sang, and how he was clad in the robes of a grey friar, they stopped suddenly, the fat little brother drawing his heavy eyebrows together in a mighty frown, and the thin brother twisting up his face as though he had sour beer in his mouth. Then, as Little John gathered his breath for a new verse, "How now?" roared forth the fat brother, his voice coming from him like loud thunder from a little cloud. "Thou naughty fellow, is this a fit place for one in thy garb to tipple and sing profane songs?" "Nay," quoth Little John, "said I cannot tipple and sing like your worship's reverence in such a goodly place as Fountain Abbey. I must e'en tipple and sing where I can."
"Now, out upon thee!" cried the tall, lean brother in a harsh voice. "Now, out upon thee, that thou shouldst so disgrace thy cloth with this talking and bearing."
"Marry, come up," quoth Little John. "Disgrace, sayest thou? Methinks it is more disgrace for one of our garb to wring hard-earned farthings out of the gripe of poor lean peasants. Is it not so, brother?" At this, the tinker and the peddler and the beggar nudged one another, and all grinned, and the friars scowled blackly at Little John, but they could think of nothing further to say, so they turned to their horses. Then Little John arose of a sudden from the bench where he sat, and ran to where the brothers of Fountain Abbey were mounting. Quoth he, "Let me hold your horses' bridles for you. Truly, your words have smitten my sinful heart, so that I will abide no longer in this den of evil, but will go forward with you. No vile temptation, I wot, will fall upon me in such holy company."
"Nay, fellow,"
said the lean brother harshly, for he saw that Little John made sport of them.
"we want none of thy company, so get thee gone."
"Oh, alas," quoth Little John, "I am truly sorry that ye like me not, nor my company. But as for leaving you, it may not be, for my heart is so moved that willy-nilly
I must go with you for the sake of your holy company.
Now, at this talk, all the good fellows on the bench grinned till their teeth glistened, and even the landlord could not forbear to smile. As for the friars, they looked at one another with a puzzled look and knew not what to do in the matter. They were so proud that it made them feel sick with shame to think of riding along the high road with a strolling friar, in robes all too short for him, running beside them. But yet they could not make Little John stay against his will, for they knew he could crack the bones of both of them in a twinkling, were he so minded. Then up spake the fat brother more mildly than he had done before.
Nay, good brother, said he, we will ride fast, and thou wilt tire to death at the pace.
Truly, I am grateful to thee for the thought of me, quoth Little John, but have no fear, brother, my limbs are stout, and I could run like a hare from here to Gainsborough. At these words, a sound of laughing came from the bench, whereat the lean brother's wrath boiled over like water into the fire, with great fuss and noise.
Now, out upon thee, thou naughty fellow, he cried. Art thou not ashamed to bring disgrace so upon our cloth? Bide thee here, thou sot, with these porkers. Thou art no fit company for us.
La, ye there now, quoth Little John.
Thou hearest, landlord. Thou art not fit company for these holy men. Go back to thine alehouse. Nay, if these most holy brothers of mine do but give the word, I'll beat thy head with this stout staff, till it is as soft as whipped eggs. At these words, a great shout of laughter went up from those on the bench, and the landlord's face grew as red as a cherry from smothering his laugh in his stomach. But he kept his merriment down, for he wished not to bring the ill will of the brothers of Fountain Abbey upon him by unseemly mirth. So the brethren, as they could do naught else, having mounted their nags, turned their noses toward Lincoln and rode away. I cannot stay longer, sweet friends, quoth Little John, as he pushed in betwixt the two cobs. Therefore I wish you good den. Off we go, we three. So saying, he swung his stout staff over his shoulder and trudged off, measuring his pace with that of the two nags. Good night, DJ. And Shay. Good night, DJ and Shay the Bean. Good night, good night. He's such a troll. The two brothers glowered at Little John when he so pushed himself betwixt them that they drew as far away from him as they could, so that the yeomen walked in the middle of the road, while they rode on the footpath on either side of the way. As they so went away, the tinker, the peddler, and the beggar ran skipping out into the middle of the highway, each with a pot in his hand, and looked after them, laughing. While they were in sight of those at the inn, the brothers walked their horses soberly, not caring to make ill matters worse by seeming to run away from Little John, for they could not but think how it would sound in folks' ears when they heard how the brethren of Fountain Abbey scampered away from a strolling friar, like the ugly one, when the blessed St. Dunstan loosed his nose from the red-hot tongs where he had held it fast. But when they had crossed the crest of the hill, and the inn was lost to sight, quoth the fat brother to the thin brother, Brother Ambrose, had we not better mend our pace? Why, truly, gossip. Oh, no, wait, sorry, this is Little John. Why, truly, gossip, spoke up Little John. Methinks it would be well to boil our pot a little faster, for the day is passing on, so it will not jolt thy fat too much. Onward, say I. At this, the two friars said nothing, but they glared again on Little John with baleful looks. Then, without another word, they clucked their horses, and both broke into a canter. So they galloped for a mile and more, and Little John ran betwixt them as lightly as a stag, and never turned a hair with the running. At last,
The fat brother drew his horse's rein with a groan, for he could stand the shaking no longer. "Alas," said Little John, with not so much as a catch in his breath, "I did sadly fear that the roughness of this pace would shake thy poor old fat paunch." To this the fat friar said never a word, but he stared straight before him, and he gnawed his nether lip. And now they travelled forward more quietly, Little John in the middle of the road, whistling merrily to himself, and the two friars in the footpath on either side, saying never a word. "Hi, Forest Cabin. Hello. How's it going?" Then presently they met 3 merry minstrels, all clad in red, who stared amain to see a grey friar with such short robes walking the middle of the road, and 2 brothers with heads bowed with shame, riding upon richly caparisoned cobs on the footpaths. "Anarchy, thank you for the 100 biddies. Thank you." When they had come nearer to the minstrels, Little John waved his staff like an usher clearing the way. "Make way," he cried in a loud voice. Make way, for here we go, we 3. Then how the minstrels stared, and how they laughed. But the fat friar shook as with an ague, and the lean friar bowed his head over the horse's neck. Then next they met 2 noble knights in rich array, with hawk on wrist, and likewise 2 fair ladies clad in silks and velvets, all riding on noble steeds. These all made room, staring, as Little John and the 2 friars came along the road. To them, Little John bowed humbly. "I'll give you greetings, lords and ladies," said he. "But here we go, we 3. Then all laughed, and one of the fair ladies cried out, "What 3 meanest thou, merry friend?" Little John looked over his shoulder, but they had now passed each other, and he called back, "Big Jack, Lean Jack, and Fat Jack Pudding." At this the fat friar gave a groan, and seemed as if he were like to fall from his saddle for shame. The other brother said nothing, but he looked before him with a grim and stony look. Just ahead of them, the road took a sudden turn around a high hedge, and some 20 paces beyond the bend, another road crossed the one they were riding upon. When they had come to the crossroad and were well away from those they had left, the lean friar drew rein suddenly. "Look ye, fellow," quoth he, in a voice quivering with rage, "we have had enough of thy vile company, and care no longer to be made sport of. Go thy way, and let us go ours in peace." "La there now," quoth Little John, "methought we were such a merry company, and here thou dost blaze up like fat in the pan. But truly, I have had enough of you today, though I can ill spare your company. I know you will miss me, but gin you want me again, whisper to Goodman Wind, and he will bring news thereof to me. But ye see I am a poor man, and ye are rich. I pray you give me a penny or 2 to buy me bread and cheese at the next inn." "We have no money, fellow," said the lean friar harshly. "Come, brother Thomas, let us forward." But Little John caught the horses by the bridle reins, one in either hand. "Have ye in truth no money about you whatsoever?" said he. "Now I pray you, brothers, for charity's sake, give me somewhat to buy a crust of bread, e'en though it be only a penny." "I tell thee, fellow, we have no money," thundered the fat little friar with a great voice. "Have ye, in holy truth, no money?" asked Little John. "Not a farthing," said the lean friar sourly. "Not a groat," said the lean friar loudly. "Nay," quoth Little John, "this must not be. Far be it from me to see such holy men as ye are depart from me with no money. Get both of you down straightway from off your horses, and we will kneel here in the middle of the crossroads,
and pray to the blessed St. Dunstan to send us some money to carry us on our journey."
"What sayest thou, thou limb of evil?" cried the lean friar, fairly gnashing his teeth with rage. "Dost thou bid me, the high cellarer of Fountain Abbey, to get down from my horse and kneel in the dirty road to pray to some beggarly Saxon saint?"
"Now," quoth Little John, "I have a great part of mind to crack thy head for thee, for speaking thus of the good Saint Dunstan. But get thee down straightway, for my patience will not last much longer, and I may forget that ye are both in holy orders."
So saying, he twirled his stout staff till it whistled again. At this speech, both friars grew as pale as dough. Down slipped the fat brother from off his horse on one side, and down slipped the lean brother on the other. "Now, brothers, down on your knees and pray," said Little John. Thereupon, putting his heavy hands upon the shoulder of each, he forced them to their knees, he kneeling also. Then Little John began to beseech St. Dunstan for money, which he did in a great loud voice. After he had so besought the saint for a time, he bade the friars feel in their pouches and see if the saint had sent them anything. So each put his hand slowly in the pouch that hung beside him, but brought nothing thence.
"Ah," quoth Little John, "have your prayers so little virtue? Then let us at it again."
Then straightway he began calling on St. Dunstan again, somewhat in this wise.
"O gracious St. Dunstan, send some money straightway to these poor folks, lest the fat one waste away and grow as lean as the lean one, and the lean one waste away to nothing at all ere they get to Lincoln Town. But send them only 10 shillings apiece, lest they grow puffed up with pride. Any more than that thou sendest, send to me. Now," quoth he, rising, "let us see what each man hath." And he thrust his hand into his pouch, and drew thence 4 golden angels. "What have ye, brothers?" said he. Then once again each friar slowly thrust his hand into his pouch, and once again brought it out, with nothing in it. "Have ye nothing?" quoth Little John. "Nay, I warrant there is somewhat that hath crept into the seams of your pouches, so ye have missed it. Well, let me look." So he went first to the lean friar, and thrusting his hand into the pouch, he drew forth a leathern bag, and counted therefrom 110 pounds of golden money. "I thought," quoth Little John, "that thou hadst missed in some odd corner of thy pouch the money that the blessed saint had sent thee. And now let me see whether thou hast not some also, brother." Thereupon he thrust his hand into the pouch of the fat friar, and drew thence a bag like the other, and counted out from it 70 pounds. So 90 pounds. "Look ye now," quoth he, "I knew that the good saint had sent thee some pittance that thou also hadst missed." Then giving them 1 pound between them, he slipped the rest of the money into his own pouch, saying, "Ye pledge me your holy word that ye had no money. Being holy men, I trust that ye would not belie your word so pledged. Therefore I know the good St. Dunstan hath sent this in answer to my prayers. But as I only prayed for 10 shillings to be sent to each of you, all over and above that belongeth by rights to me, and so I take it. I give ye good den, brothers, and may ye have a pleasant journey henceforth." So saying, he turned and left them, striding away. The friars looked at one another with a woeful look, and slowly and sadly they mounted their horses again and rode away with never a word.
But Little John turned his footsteps back again to Sherwood Forest, and merrily he whistled as he strode along. And now we will see what befell Robin Hood in his venture as Beggar. End of chapter. Oh, man. I am much more okay with his harassment when it comes to corrupt holy men. He got him. He got them good. Those friars are loaded, yeah. Okay. Now, I need to take... One of them had 90 pounds, and the other one had 110. So they had 200 altogether. Yeah. Okay. I need to take a stretch break. And I'm going to put up a poll in the Twitch chat if you guys want to hear one more chapter tonight, or if you want to go to ASMR. Is that considered a lot of money in those days? Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, that's a good chunk. Remember that the night, or you might not have been here for the chapter we read earlier tonight, the knight, to pay off his debt to like keep his castle, was 300 pounds. That was the debt that he owed. He had 70. What, Little John already had like 4 gold coins. Hi, Shaky Shadow. Hello. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna take a few minutes to stretch. And wait, let me make the poll first. The 70. Wait, who's 70? No. The one friar, I said he had 110. The other one, 70 is 90. Because a score is 20. Oh, no, wait, sorry. He only has... My bad. 70 pounds. Yeah, you're right. That was just me being dumb. Yeah, so one at 110, the other at 70. Yeah. We math here? No we don't. Okay, new poll. Okay. Putting up a poll in the Twitch chat. It is up now. I'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll see what we're doing then. Okay. And, oh, Shaky Shadow, thank you for the follow. I'll be right back.
Hello. Hello again. It looks like you have voted yes to another chapter. Cool. Let's read one more chapter and then see how we're feeling. Hi, Kaisi King. All right. So now we get to see how Robin's adventures are going as he play acts being a beggar. Just a little bit of LARPing. That's all good. Oh, crime. Sorry. Sorry. Unpleasant. Okay. Okay. We are just about ready to go. Turn my lip balm because reading makes my lips jump. Here we go. Okay. So, if you're following along, we are about to read the chapter called Robin Hood Turns Beggar. Hope he doesn't go apeshit with the lusties. Look, are you good? How many more lusties can you handle? Your ear got handled? Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean, Blue Jay? From that horrible microphone noise I made? Also, a reminder for anyone that may have wandered in, more recently, that we are also live on the YouTube. If anyone wants to open that up and help out with the watch hours over there, that frog does have a throbber. It's true. Okay. All right. Robin Hood turns beggar. And what a lusty beggar he was. After Jolly Robin had left Little John at the forking of the roads, he walked merrily onward in the mellow sunshine that shone about him. Ever and anon he would skip and leap or sing a snatch of song for pure joyousness of the day. For because of the sweetness of the springtide, his heart was as lusty within him as that of a colt newly turned out to grass. Sometimes he would walk a long distance, gazing aloft at the great white swelling clouds. It's a dangerous game you're playing. Gazing aloft at the great white swelling clouds that moved slowly across the deep blue sky. Anon he would stop and drink in the fullness of life of all things, for the hedgerows were budding tenderly, and the grass of the meadows was waxing long and green. Again he would stand still and listen to the pretty song of the little birds in the thickets, or hearken to the clear crow of the cock daring the sky to rain. Whereat he would laugh, for it took but little to tickle Robin's heart into merriment. So he trudged manfully along, ever willing to stop for this reason or for that, and ever ready to chat with such merry lasses as he met now and then. So the morning slipped along, but yet he met no beggar with whom he could change clothes. Quoth he, "If I do not change my luck in haste, I am like to have an empty day of it, for it is well nigh half gone already, and although I have had a merry walk through the countryside, I know not of a beggar's life." Then, after a while, he began to grow hungry, whereupon his mind turned from thoughts of springtime and flowers and birds, and dwelt upon boiled capons, malmsey,
white bread and the like, with great tenderness. Quoth he to himself, would I had Willie Winkin's wishing coat. I know right well what I should wish for, and this it should be. Here he marked upon the fingers of his left hand, with the forefinger of his right hand, the things he wished for. Firstly, I would have a sweet brown pie of tender larks, mark ye, not dry cooked, but with a good sop of gravy to moisten it withal. Next, I would have a pretty pullet, fairly boiled, with tender pigeon's eggs cunningly sliced, garnishing the platter around. With these, I would have a long, slim loaf of wheaten bread that hath been baked upon the hearth. It should be warm from the fire, with glossy brown crust, the color of the hair of mine own Maid Marian. What the fuck? This is the first we've ever heard of Maid Marian, and they throw it in as like an off-the-cuff comment that her hair is the color of bread crust? We've literally had no mention of Maid Marian yet, and the first time it's like, oh yeah, my GF, whose hair is the color of bread crust. Wait, so Marian already is a thing? Why don't we get that story? She's crusty. Hi, King Pong. Hello. Hi, Rich. Hello, welcome back. How are you doing? But like, what? I was like, oh, I can't wait for the story where he meets Maid Marian. No, apparently he knows her. Damn, she's got that glossy bread crust hair. Okay, sorry. Let me get back into character. The color of the hair of mine own Maid Marian, and this same crust should be as crisp and brittle as the thin white ice that lies across the furrows in the early winter's morning. These will do for the more solid things, but with these I must have 3 potties. Okay. In this context, a potty doesn't mean like a toilet. It means like a jug of ale, like a wineskin kind of thing, I think. I must have 3 potties, fat and round, one full of malmsey, one of canary, and one brimming full of mine own dear lusty sack. Take a shot here, Will. Not a potty brimming of his own dear lusty sack. I'm an adult. We read literature here. We're fine. I'm fine. I'm mature. I'm not laughing at this. What's sack mean in this context? Wine. Like a dry wine. We looked up the etymology of it before. Sack comes from the French sec, which means dry. Is a dry wine. Canary is also a wine. I don't know if is Malmsey also a wine? They're all alcohol. He wants, like and yeah. He's got like he wants a few like wineskins. Oh my god. Hey Will, look, you might have to like not finish the game if it gets too intense. Winston Churchill did this all through the war. What, took shots whenever someone said the word lusty? Hi, Tidal Lord. Hello. How you doing? Good to see you again. Potty is also wine. No, the word potty means the actual sack. So they've also used the word pottle, like a pot. A small pot, right? Small pot, a pottle, a potty.
You're here for 3 shots, but you're done with this lusty game. Fair. Okay. Okay. Thus spoke Robin to himself, his mouth growing moist at the corners, with the thoughts of the good things he had raised in his own mind. So, talking to himself, he came to where the dusty road turned sharply around the hedge, all tender with the green of the coming leaf, and there he saw before him a stout fellow, sitting upon a stile, swinging his legs in idleness. All about this lusty rogue dangled divers pouches and bags of different sizes and kinds, a dozen or more, with great wide gaping mouths, like a brood of hungry daws. Hey, Will, are you gonna survive this? I'm not making it up. I'm not gonna stick the word lusty in where it's not. So what was the line again? Do you mean the one with the potties? Fuck. He's playing a game where he's like, these are all like the foods and drinks that I want. He says, I must have 3 potties, fat and round, 1 full of malmsey, 1 full of canary, and 1 brimming full of mine own dear lusty sack. So he's like, I want this wine, that wine, and then also some of my home brew. I want 3 jugs of wine, basically. I said dusty road, but then lusty rogue. Dusty road, lusty rogue. He already took a shot for lusty sack. Shot number 9 was for lusty rogue. Yeah. Okay. His coat was gathered in at the waist, and there was was patched with as many colors as there are stripes upon a maypole in the springtide. On his head he wore a great tall leathern cap, and across his knees rested a stout quarterstaff of blackthorn, full as long and heavy as Robin's. As jolly a beggar was he as ever trod the lanes and byways of Nottinghamshire, for his eyes were as grey as slate, and snapped and twinkled and danced with merriment, and his black hair curled close all over his head in little rings of kinkiness. This book is gonna kill me. This book is gonna be the end of me. Aniki, thank you for the 100 biddies. I'm not lying. Any of you can read along with me if you want. The book is pinned at the top of chat in both YouTube and Twitch. I am in the chapter called, like, Robin is a beggar. Robin Hood turns beggar. You can check this. I'm not lying. Christ. Hello, good fellow, quoth Robin, when he had come nigh to the other. What art thou doing here this merry day, when the flowers are peeping and the buds are swelling? I'm trying to decide what voice to give the rogue. Then the other winked one eye, and straightway trolled forth in a merry voice. I sit upon the stile, and I sing a little while, as I wait for my own true dear, for the sun is shining bright, and the leaves are dancing light, and the little fowl sings, she is near. And so it is with me, bully boy, saving that my doxy cometh not. Oh, that is a right sweet song, quoth Robin, and were I in the right mind to listen to thee, I could bear well to hear more. But I have 2 things of seriousness to ask of thee, so listen, I prithee. At this the jolly beggar cocked his head on one side, like a rogue of a magpie. Quoth he, I am an ill jug to pour heavy things into, good friend, and if I mistake not,
thou hast few serious words to spare at any time.
Nay, quoth jolly Robin, what I would say first is the most serious of all thoughts to me, to wit, where shall I get somewhat to eat and drink?
Sayest thou so? Quoth the beggar.
Marry, I make no such serious thoughts upon the matter. I eat when I can get it, and munch my crust when I can get no crumb. Likewise, when there is no ale to be had, I wash the dust from out my throat with a trickle of cold water. I was sitting here, as thou camest upon me, bethinking myself whether I should break my fast or no. I do love to let my hunger grow mightily keen ere I eat, for then a dry crust is as good to me as a venison pasty with suet and raisins is to stout King Harry. I have a sharp hunger upon me now, but methinks in a short while it will ripen to a right mellow appetite. Now, in good sooth, quoth merry Robin, laughing, thou hast a quaint tongue betwixt thy teeth. But hast thou truly naught but a dry crust about thee? Oh, methinks thy bags and pouches are fat and lusty for such thin fare. Why, mayhap there is some other cold fare therein, said the beggar, slyly. The wording of the story is fantastic. I almost opened an audiobook. I'm glad I didn't. The wording is so fun. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Title Lord. Thank you. And hast thou not to drink but cold water? Said Robin. Never so much as a drop, quoth the beggar. Over beyond yon clump of trees is as sweet a little inn as ever thou hast lifted eyelid upon. But I go not thither, for they have a nasty way with me. Once, when the good Prior of Emmet was dining there, the landlady set a dear little tart of stewed crabs and barley sugar upon the window-sill to cool, and seeing it there and fearing it might be lost, I took it with me till that I could find the owner thereof. Ever since then they have acted very ill toward me. Yet truth bids me say that they have the best ale there that ever rolled over my tongue. At this Robin laughed aloud. Marry, quoth he, they did ill toward thee for thy kindness. But tell me truly, what hast thou in thy pouches? Why, quoth the beggar, peeping into the mouths of his bags, I find here a goodly piece of pigeon pie, wrapped in a cabbage leaf to hold the gravy. Here I behold a dainty streaked piece of brawn, and here a fair lump of white bread. Here I find 4 oaten cakes and a cold knuckle of ham. Ha! In sooth, 'tis strange, but here I behold 6 eggs that must have come by accident from some poultry yard hereabouts. They are raw, but roasted upon the coals and spread with a piece of butter that I see. Peace, good friend, cried Robin, holding up his hand. Thou makest my poor stomach quake with joy for what thou tellest me so sweetly. If thou wilt give me to eat, I will straightway hie me to that little inn thou didst tell me of but now, and will bring a skin of ale for thy drinking and mine. Friend, thou hast said enough, said the beggar, getting down from the stile. I will feast thee with the best that I have, and bless Saint Cedric for thy company. But, sweet chuck, I prithee bring 3 quarts of ale at least, 1 for thy drinking and 2 for mine, for my thirst is such that methinks I can drink ale as the sands of the river Dee drink salt water. So Robin straightway left the beggar, who, upon his part, went to a budding lime bush back of the hedge, and there spread his feast upon the grass and roasted his eggs upon a little faggot fire, with a deftness gained by long labor in that line. After a while, back came Robin, bearing a goodly skin of ale upon his shoulder, which he laid upon the grass. Then, looking upon the feast spread upon the ground, and a fair sight it was to look upon, he slowly rubbed his hand over his stomach, for to his hungry eyes it seemed the fairest sight that he had beheld in all his life. Hell yeah. Who doesn't want to eat an old piece of pork knuckle from a random homeless man's pocket? That's the shit right there. Oh my god, you're making wings? I'm so jealous. pigeon pie in his bag. Okay.
"Friend," said the beggar, "let me feel the weight of that skin."
"Truly," quoth Robin, "help thyself, sweet chuck, and meantime let me see whether thy pigeon pie is fresh or no." So the one seized upon the ale and the other upon the pigeon pie, and nothing was heard for a while but the munching of food and the gurgle of ale as it left the skin. Menu, thank you for the follow, welcome in. Oh my god, Hate Wheel, be careful with cooking implements after 10 shots, 10 lusty shots. At last, after a long time had passed thus, Robin pushed the food from him and heaved a great sigh of deep content, for he felt as though he had been made all over anew. "And now, good friend," quoth he, leaning upon one elbow, "I would have at thee about that other matter of seriousness, of which I spoke not long since."
"How?" said the beggar reproachfully. "That was surely not talk of things appertaining to serious affairs upon such ale as this."
"Nay," quoth Robin, laughing, "I would not check thy thirst, sweet friend. Drink well, I talk to thee. Thus it is. I would have thee know that I have taken a liking to thy craft, and would fain have a taste of a beggar's life mine own self." Said the beggar, "I marvel not that thou hast taken a liking to my manner of life, good fellow, but to like and to do are two matters of different sorts. I tell thee, friend, one must serve a long apprenticeship ere one can learn to be even so much as a clapper-dudgeon, much less a crank or an Abraham man." Who were classes of traveling mendicants that infested England? Infested England? That's the word they used. Infested England as late as the middle of the 17th century. The source for that is Vide Dakar's English Villainese, etc. Christ. Okay. Some of us have drank toes. Look, some of us have drank toes. Hi, Artags on the YouTube. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Yes, thank you for anyone who's able to watch on the YouTube. It really helps with the watch hours. Thank you, thank you. Okay. I tell thee, lad, thou art too old to enter upon that, which it may take thee years to catch the hang of. Oh, mayhap that may be so, quoth Robin, for I bring to mind that Gaffer Swanthold saith, Jack Shoemaker maketh ill bread, Tom Baker maketh ill shoon. Nevertheless, I have a mind to taste a beggar's life, and need but the clothing to be as good as any. I tell thee, fellow, said the beggar, if thou wert clad as sweetly as good Saint Winton, the patron of our craft, thou wouldst never make a beggar. Marry, the first jolly traveller that thou wouldst meet would beat thee to a pudding for thrusting thy nose into a craft that belongeth not to thee. Oh, nevertheless, quoth Robin, I would have a try at it, and methinks I shall change clothes with thee, for that garb seemeth to be pretty, not to say gay. So not only will I change clothes, but I will give thee 2 golden angels to boot. I've brought my stout staff with me, thinking that I may have to rap someone of the brethren of thy cloth over the head by way of argument in this matter. But I love thee so much for the feast thou hast given me that I would not lift even my little finger against thee, so thou needst not have a crumb of fear. To this the beggar listened with his knuckles resting against his hips, and when Robin had ended, he cocked his head on one side and thrust his tongue into his cheek. Marry, come up, quoth he at last. Lift thy finger against me, forsooth. Art thou out of thy wits, man? My name is Rickon Hazel, and I come from Holywell in Flintshire, over by the River Dee. I tell thee, knave, I have cracked the head of many a better man than thou art, and even now I would scald thy crown for thee, but for the ale thou hast given me. Now, thou shalt not have so much as one tag rag of my coat, even could it save thee from hanging. Now, fellow, said Robin, it would ill suit me to spoil thy pretty head for thee, but I
tell thee plainly that but for this feast I would do that to thee. No. That but for this feast I would do that to thee would stop thy travelling the country for many a day to come. Keep thy lips shut, lad, or thy luck will tumble out of thy mouth with thy speech. Now out, and alas for thee, man, for thou hast bred thyself ill this day, cried the beggar, rising and taking up his staff. Take up thy club and defend thyself, fellow, for I will not only beat thee, but I will take from thee thy money and leave thee not so much as a clipped groat to buy thyself a lump of goose grease to rub thy cracked crown withal. So defend thyself, I say. God, at this point it's a kink. Robin loves getting his ass kicked. Like, it's crazy. Then up leapt merry Robin, and snatched up his staff also. Take my money if thou canst, quoth he. I promise freely to give thee every farthing if thou dost touch me. And he twirled his staff in his fingers till it whistled again. Then the beggar swung his staff also, and struck a mighty blow at Robin, which the yeoman turned. 3 blows the beggar struck, yet never one touched so much as a hair of Robin's head. Then stout Robin saw his chance, and ere you could count 3, Rickon's staff was over the hedge, and Rickon himself lay upon the green grass with no more motion than you could find in an empty pudding bag. How now, quoth merry Robin, laughing. Wilt thou have my hide or my money, sweet chuck? But to this the other answered never a word. Then Robin, seeing his plight, and that he was stunned with the blow, ran, still laughing, and brought the skin of ale, and poured some of it on the beggar's head and some down his throat, so that presently he opened his eyes and looked around as though wondering why he lay upon his back. What are you saying? What about? I didn't say the word, did I? Oh, if Robin wins, I take a shot. Well, that's on you, really. That's on you. Then Robin, seeing that he had somewhat gathered the wits that had just been rapped out of his head, said, Now, good fellow, wilt thou change clothes with me, or shall I have to tap thee again? Here are 2 golden angels, if thou wilt give me freely all thy rags and bags and thy cap and things. If thou givest them not freely, I fear me I shall have to, and he looked up and down his staff. Then Rickon sat up and rubbed the bump on his crown. Now, out upon it, quoth he. I did think to drub thee sweetly, fellow. I know not how it is, but I seem, as it were, to have bought more beer than I can drink. If I must give up my clothes, I must, but first promise me, by thy word, as a true yeoman, that thou wilt take naught from me but my clothes. I promise on the word of a true yeoman, quoth Robin, thinking that the fellow had a few pennies that he would save. Thereupon the beggar drew a little knife that hung at his side, and ripping up the lining of his coat, drew thence 10 bright golden pounds, which he laid upon the ground beside him, with a cunning wink at Robin. Now thou mayest have my clothes, and welcome, said he, and thou mightest have had them in exchange for thine without the cost of a single farthing, far less than 2 golden angels. Marry, quoth Robin, laughing, thou art a sly fellow, and I tell thee truly, had I known thou hadst so much money by thee, maybe thou mightst not have carried it away, for I warrant thou didst not come honestly by it. Then each stripped off his clothes and put on those of the other, and as lusty a beggar was Robin Hood as e'er you could find of a summer's day. But stout Rickon of Holywell skipped and leapt and danced for joy of the fair suit of Lincoln green that he had so gotten. Quoth he, I am a gay-feathered bird now. Truly, my dear Mole Peascod would never know me in this dress. Thou mayst keep the cold pieces on the feast, friend, for I mean to live well and lustily while my money lasts and my clothes are gay. So he turned and left Robin, and, crossing the stile, was gone. But Robin heard him singing from beyond the hedge as he strode away. For Polly is smiling and Molly is glad when the beggar comes in at the door. And Jack and Dick call him a fine lusty lad, and the hostess runs up a great score. Then hey, Willie Waddington. I regret making up this tune. Then hey, Willie Waddington, stay Billy Waddington, and let the brown ale flow free, the beggar's the man for me. Bro, that was 3 in a row. Sorry. What a crooner, you shut up. I'm not here as a singer. I hope you caught the lusty in the lyrics as well. Robin listened till the song ended in the distance. Then he also crossed the stile into the road, but turned his toes away from where the beggar had gone. Yes, for real. And Jack and Dick call him a fine lusty lad, is one of the lines of the song. I sang it. The road led up a gentle hill, and up the hill Robin walked. A 50 or more of bags dangling about his legs. Onward he strolled for a long time, but other adventure he found not. The road was bare of all else but himself, as he went kicking up little clouds of dust at each footstep, for it was noontide, the most peaceful time of all the day, next to twilight. All the earth was silent in the restfulness of eating time. The plough horses stood in the furrow, munching, with great bags over their noses, holding sweet food. The ploughman sat under the hedge, and the ploughboy also, and they too were munching, each one holding a great piece of bread in one fist, and a great piece of cheese in the other. Hey, Will, you can end this game whenever you want. Let it be known, I'm not egging you on. So Robin, with all the empty road to himself, strode along, whistling merrily, his bags and pouches bobbing and dangling at his thighs. At last he came to where a little grass-grown path left the road, and, passing through a stile and down a hill, led into a little dell, and on across a rill in the valley, and up the hill on the other side, till it reached a windmill that stood on the cap of the rise, where the wind bent the trees in swaying motion. Robin looked at the spot and liked it, and for no reason but that his fancy led him, he took his little path. He took the little path and walked down the grassy, sunny slope of the open meadow, and so came to the little dingle, and, ere he knew it, upon 4 lusty fellows that sat with legs outstretched around a goodly feast spread upon the ground. I shall. I'm not adding it. Anyone can look up what I'm reading. Why is everyone so lusty? This is what we're saying, CS. Everyone is stout and lusty. Like, this author needs more adjectives. 4 merry beggars were they, and each had slung about his neck a little board that rested upon his breast. One board had written upon it, I am blind, another, I am deaf, another, I am dumb, and the 4th, pity the lame one. Wait. I know it probably doesn't mean it in that way, but it kind of sounds like the lame one is kind of saying, like, well, ignore these fuckers, I'm the one that you should take pity on. Instead of just being like, I am lame. Bad fraginator, words like randy and frisky. Actually, in this context, lusty just means, like, healthy and energetic. It's only through our, like, modern lens that we're finding it so fun. I mean, either way,
he needs a thesaurus. But yeah, very different context at the time. But although all these troubles written upon the board seemed so grievous, the 4 stout fellows sat around, feasting as merrily as though Cain's wife had never opened the pottle that held misfortunes, and let them forth like a cloud of flies to pester us. The deaf man was the first to hear Robin. Okay. Hi, Posh Cat. Not like the Argonian maid. No, not like that. Wait, that's funny though. Can you imagine if like the lusty Argonian maid was also, it just meant that she was really like healthy and energetic, and it just got misinterpreted over time. It's just supposed to be the story of like some like adventurer Argonian. Yeah, the lusty Argonian maid. It has a lot more innuendo. Yeah, but look how much innuendo is in Robin Hood. But none of it actually is. It's just the change of time, changing words. Okay. Just made it to stream. Must be a huge time. Hi, Sean Buck. Hello. Why? What time is it there for you? For me, it's just coming on. It's just 1 a.m. It's 9 a.m. for you. Well, there you go. You're 8 hours ahead. The deaf man was the first to hear Robin, for he said, "Hark, brothers, I hear someone coming." And the blind man was the first to see him, for he said, "Well, he's an honest man, brothers, and one of like craft to ourselves." Then the dumb man called to him in oops. Sorry. Then the dumb man called to him in a great voice and said, "Welcome, brother. Come and sit while there is still some of the feast left, and a little malmsey in the pottle." At this, the lame man, who had taken off his wooden leg and unstrapped his own leg, and oh my god, and was sitting with it stretched out upon the grass so as to rest it, made room for Robin among them. Your alarm's going off in 3 hours and you can't sleep. I'm so sorry, Milu. That sucks. That sucks. Frisky isn't usually naughty though, is it? It depends on the context. Like if you're talking about like a frisky puppy, obviously it just means playful and energetic. If you say like, "Oh, and then she was getting a little frisky with me," like talking about like your girlfriend or something, then that has a different meaning. Exactly, like how Sherlock and Watson are ejaculating all the time. Exactly. Or like in Dracula, how Van Helsing like spilled sperm all over the coffin. Yeah, words meant different things. It just meant like oil or wax or something in that context, right? He like spilled his candle or something. It was a reference to like a sperm oil, like an oil lamp or something. Yeah. But they just used the word sperm, so. And it was a very suggestive wording as well. It was like, I forget the exact wording of the sentence, but like, it was very colorful. But very innocent in the context. Yeah. Okay. "We are glad to see thee, brother," said he, holding out the flask of Malmsey. "Marry," quoth Robin, laughing, and weighing the flask in his hands ere he drank, "methinks it is no more than seemly of you all to be glad to see me, seeing that I bring sight to the blind, speech to the dumb, hearing to the deaf, and such a lusty leg to a lame man." Hey, Will, stop drinking. You can't win this game.
You cannot win this game. Then Helsing went about his work systematically, holding his candle so that he could read the coffin plates, and so holding it that the sperm dropped in white patches which congealed as they touched the metal. Yeah. Very colorful, very innocent in context. You can't win this game. You are defeated. Okay? Howard Pyle has won. I drink to your happiness, brothers, as I may not drink to your health, seeing ye are already hail, wind, and a limb. At this all grinned, and the blind beggar, who was the chief man among them, and was the broadest shouldered, and the most lusty rascal of all, smote Robin upon the shoulder, swearing he was a right merry wag. Hey, Will, you can't win. Give up. Give up. Hey, Will, stop. It's too much. It's too much. It's too much. Can you do me a favor? Can you do me a big old favor? Start taking shots of water from now on, okay? Will you do that? Will you do that, please? You can keep taking shots. Make them be of water from now on, okay? I don't want any. That's a lot. That's a lot of shots. I think we all already, like, yeah. You done well. You done well. It's still fucking hilarious. Keep doing the game, but have shots of water, okay? But keep doing the game, but with shots of water. Okay, good. Good. Thank you. How about for everything? Yeah, but there. I mean, we're already like quite a ways on in the story, so okay. But for future, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, because that was 16 shots. That's crazy. That's crazy. I would be. Oh God, sorry. I would be dead. I could not. I don't think I could do like a third of that. Okay. Whence comest thou, lad? Asked the dumb man. Why, quoth Robin, I came this morning from sleeping overnight in Sherwood. Oh, is it even so? Said the deaf man. I would not for all the money we four are carrying to Lincoln town sleep one night in Sherwood. If Robin Hood caught one of our trade in his woodlands, he would, methinks, clip his ears. Methinks he would too, quoth Robin, laughing. But what money is this that ye speak of? Then up spake the lame man. Our king, Peter of York, said he, hath sent us to Lincoln with those moneys that— Stay, brother Hodge, quoth the blind man, breaking into the talk. I would not doubt our brother here, but bear in mind we know him not. What art thou, brother? Upright man, jerkman, clapperdudgeon, dommerer, or Abraham man? At these words, Robin looked from one man to the other with mouth agape. Truly, quoth he, I trust I am an upright man, at least I strive to be, but I know not what thou meanest by such jargon, brother. If it were much more seemly, methinks, if yon dumb man, who hath a sweet voice, would give us a song. At these words, a silence fell on all, and after a while the blind man spoke again. Quoth he, Thou dost surely jest when thou sayest that thou dost not understand such words. Answer me this. Hast thou ever fibbed a chouse quarrons in the roan pad for the lure in his bung? Are they speaking thieves' cant? Okay, here's the footnote. In old Beggar's cant, beaten a man or gallant upon the highway for the money in his purse. Oh,
They're speaking in cant. Hast thou ever fibbed a chouse quarrons in the Rome pad for the lure in his bung? Now, out upon it, quoth Robin Hood testily, and ye make sport of me by pattering such gibberish. It will be ill for you all, I tell you. I have the best part of a mind to crack the heads of all 4 of you, and would do so too, but for the sweet malmsey you have given me. Brother, pass the pottle lest it grow cold. But all 4 beggars leapt to their feet when Robin had done speaking, and the blind man snatched up a heavy knotted cudgel that lay beside him on the grass, as did the others likewise. Then Robin, seeing that things were like to go ill with him, albeit he knew not what all the coil was about, leapt to his feet also, and catching up his trusty staff, clapped his back against the tree, and stood upon his guard against them. How now, cried he, twirling his staff betwixt his fingers, would you 4 stout fellows set upon one man? Stand back, ye rascals, or I will score your pates till they have as many marks upon them as a pothouse door. Are you mad? I've done you no harm. Thou liest, quoth the one who pretended to be blind, and who, being the lustiest villain, was the leader of the others. Thou liest, for thou hast come among us as a vile spy. But thine ears have heard too much for thy body's good, and thou goest not forth from this place, unless thou goest feet foremost, for this day thou shalt die. Come, brothers, all together, down with him. Then, whirling up his cudgel, he rushed upon Robin as an angry bull rushes upon a red rag. But Robin was ready for any happening. Crick, crack, he struck 2 blows as quick as a wink, and down went the blind man, rolling over and over upon the grass. What a hell yeah. At this, the others bore back and stood at a little distance, scowling upon Robin. Come on, ye scum, cried he merrily. Here be cakes and ale for all. Now, who will be next served? To this speech the beggars answered never a word, but they looked at Robin as great Blunderbore looked upon stout Jack, the slayer of giants, as though they would fain eat him, body and bones. Nevertheless, they did not care to come nigher to him and his terrible staff. Then, seeing them so hesitate, Robin, of a sudden, leapt upon them, striking even as he leapt. Down went the dumb man, and away flew his cudgel from his hand as he fell. At this, the others ducked to avoid another blow, then, taking to their heels, scampered, the one way and the other, as though they had the west wind's boots upon their feet. Robin looked after them, laughing, and thought that never had he seen so fleet a runner as the lame man. But neither of the beggars stopped, nor turned round, for each felt in his mind the wind of Robin's cudgel about his ears. Then Robin turned to the 2 stout knaves lying upon the ground. Quoth he, These fellows spake somewhat about certain moneys they were taking to Lincoln. Methinks I may find it upon this stout blind fellow, who hath as keen sight as e'er a trained woodsman in Nottingham or Yorkshire. It were a pity to let sound money stay in the pockets of such thieving knaves. So saying, he stooped over the burly rascal and searched among his rags and tatters, till presently his fingers found a leathern pouch slung around his body beneath his patched and tattered coat. This he stripped away, and weighing it in his hands, bethought himself that it was mighty heavy. It were a sweet thing, said he to himself, if this were filled with gold instead of copper pence. Then, sitting down upon the grass, he opened the pocket and looked into it. There he found 4 round rolls wrapped up in dressed sheepskin. One of these rolls he opened. Then his mouth gaped and his eyes stared, I wot, as though they would never close again. For what did he see but 50 pounds of bright golden money? He opened the other pockets and found in each one the same 50 bright, new-stamped golden pounds. Quoth Robin, I have oft heard that the Beggars' Guild was over-rich, but never did I think that they sent such sums as this to their treasury. Well, I shall take it with me, for it will be better used for charity and the good of my merry band than in the enriching of such knaves as these." So saying, he rolled up the money in the sheepskin again, and putting it back in the purse, he thrust the pouch into his own bosom. Then, taking up the flask of Malmsey, he held it toward the two fellows lying on the grass, and quoth he, "Sweet friends, I drink your health and thank you dearly for what ye have so kindly given me this day, and so I wish you good den." Then, taking up his staff, he left the spot and went merrily on his way. But when the two stout beggars that had been rapped upon the head roused themselves and sat up, and when the others had gotten over their fright and come back, they were as sad and woe-begone as 4 frogs in dry weather. For 2 of them had cracked crowns, their Malmsey was all gone, and they had not so much as a farthing to cross their palms withal. But after Robin left the little dell, he strode along merrily, singing as he went, and so blithe was he, and such a stout beggar, and withal so fresh and clean that every merry lass he met had a sweet word for him, and felt no fear. Well, the very dogs, that most times hate the sight of a beggar, snuffed at his legs in friendly wise, and wagged their tails pleasantly. For dogs know an honest man by his smell, and an honest man Robin was, in his own way. Thus he went along, till at last he had come to the wayside cross nigh Allerton, and, being somewhat tired, he sat him down to rest upon the grassy bank in front of it. "It groweth nigh time," quoth he to himself, "that I were getting back again to Sherwood. Yet it would please me well to have one more merry adventure ere I go back again to my jolly band." So he looked up the road and down the road to see who might come, until at last he saw someone drawing near, riding upon a horse. When the traveller come nigh enough for him to see him well, Robin laughed, for he was for a strange enough figure he cut. He was a thin, wizened man, and to look upon him you could not tell whether he was 30 years old or 60, so dried up was he even to skin and bone. As for the nag, it was as thin as the rider, and both looked as though they had been baked in Mother Huddle's oven, where folk are dried up so that they live forever. What the fuck? I want to read that story. What? Who's Mother Huddle? Well, I'm gonna have to... There's no immediate answers to that. I'm gonna have to look into that. Hey, Jungle Bomb. Yeah, he's won all his fights today. That's why they didn't end up being his friends. He only wants to make friends with them if they kick his ass. Yeah, at first I thought it was gonna be Mother Hubbard. But no. She puts people in her oven and they get dried up and then they live forever? That's crazy. I'm gonna need to do some digging for that lore. Okay. But although Robin laughed at the droll sight, he knew the wayfarer to be a certain rich corn engrosser of Worksop, who more than once had bought all the grain in the countryside and held it till it reached even famine prices, thus making much money from the needs of poor people, and for this he was hated far and near by everyone that knew aught of him. Oh my god, not lemongrab. So after a while, the corn engrosser, I'm sorry, that's such a weird title, the corn engrosser came riding up to where Robin sat, whereupon merry Robin stepped straightway forth in all his rags and tatters, his bags and pouches dangling about him, and laid his hand upon the horse's bridle rein, calling upon the other to stop. "Who art thou, fellow, that doth dare to stop me thus upon the king's highway?"
said the lean man in a dry, sour voice. Pity a poor beggar, quoth Robin. Give me but a farthing to buy me a piece of bread.
Now, out upon thee, snarled the other. Such sturdy rogues as thou art are better safe in the prisons, or dancing upon nothing with a hempen collar about the neck, and strolling the highways so freely.
Tut, quoth Robin, how thou talkest! Thou and I are brothers, man. Do we not both take from the poor people that which they can ill spare? Do we not make our livings by doing naught of any good? Do we not both live without touching palm to honest work? Have we either of us ever rubbed thumbs over honestly gained farthings? Go to, we are brothers, I say, only thou art rich and I am poor, wherefore, I prithee once more, give me a penny.
Dost thou prate so to me, sirrah?
Cried the corn engrosser in a rage. I'm sorry, I can't take him seriously. They're calling him the corn. Is capitalized. The corn engrosser. He's engrossing so much corn. Cried the corn engrosser in a rage.
Now I will have thee soundly whipped, if ever I catch thee in any town where the law can lay hold of thee. As for giving thee a penny, I swear to thee that I have not so much as a single groat in my purse. Were Robin Hood himself to take me, he might search me from crown to heel without finding the smallest piece of money upon me. I trust I am too sly to travel so nigh to Sherwood with money in my pouch, and that thief at large in the woods.
Then merry Robin looked up and down as if to see that there was no one nigh, and then, coming close to the corn engrosser, he stood on tiptoe and spake in his ear. Thinkest thou, in sooth, that I am a beggar, as I seem to be? Look upon me. There is not a grain of dirt upon my hands, or my face, or my body. Didst thou ever see a beggar so? I tell thee, I am as honest a man as thou art. Look, friend. Here he took the purse of money from his breast and showed to the dazzled eyes of the corn engrosser the bright golden pieces. Friend, these rags serve but to hide an honest rich man from the eyes of Robin Hood.
Put up thy money, lad, cried the other quickly. Art thou a fool to trust to beggar's rags to shield thee from Robin Hood? If he caught thee, he would strip thee to the skin, for he hates a lusty beggar as he doth a fat priest or those of my kind.
Lusty beggar. Is it indeed so? Quoth Robin. Well, had I known this, mayhap I had not come hereabouts in this garb. But I must go forward now, as much depends upon my journeying. Where goest thou, friend? I go to Grantham, said the corn engrosser, but I shall lodge tonight at Newark, if I can get so far upon my way. Why, I am myself on the way to Newark, quoth merry Robin, so that, as two honest men are better than one in roads beset by such a fellow as this Robin Hood, I will jog along with thee, if thou hast no dislike to my company. Why, thou art an honest fellow and a rich fellow, said the corn engrosser. I mind not thy company, but in sooth I have no great fondness for beggars. Then forward, quoth Robin, for the day wanes, and it will be dark ere we reach Newark. So off they went, the lean horse hobbling along as before, and Robin running beside, albeit he was so quaking with laughter within him that he could hardly stand. Yet he dared not laugh aloud, lest the corn engrosser should suspect something. So they travelled along till they reached a hill just on the outskirts of Sherwood. Here the lean man checked his lean horse into a walk, for the road was steep, and he wished to save his nag's strength, having far to go ere he reached Newark. Then he turned in his saddle and spake to Robin again, for the first time since they had left the cross.
Here is thy greatest danger, friend, said he, for here we are nighest to that vile thief Robin Hood, and the place where he dwells. Beyond this we come again to the open, honest country, and so are more safe in our journeying.
Alas, quoth Robin, I would that I had as little money by me as thou hast. For this day I fear that Robin Hood will get every groat of my wealth. Then the other looked at Robin and winked cunningly. Quoth he, I tell thee, friend, that I have nigh as much by me as thou hast, but it is hidden so that never a knave in Sherwood could find it. Thou dost surely jest, quoth Robin. How could one hide so much as 200 pounds upon his person? Now, as thou art so honest a fellow, and withal so much younger than I am, I will tell thee that which I have told to no man in all the world before, and thus thou mayst learn never again to do such a foolish thing as to trust to beggar's garb to guard thee against Robin Hood. In his butt? You think he's got it hidden up his butt? He practiced with all that corn? He doesn't take his corn engrossing lightly. He's got his money right up the cornhole. Oh, I love old literature. Also, what an idiot. You just met this guy's own, so his secret I've never told anyone. It ain't in his socks? Well, close though. Hold on. Almost. Now that you switched to water, no one's lusty. Right? I actually noticed that. Like, you would have been fine. I think there's been like one more. But if you switch back to liquor, there's gonna be like 5 lusties in a row, so. The OG cornholio. Alright. Let's see. Seest thou these clogs upon my feet? Yea, quoth Robin, laughing. Truly, they are large enough for any man to see, even were his sight as foggy as that of Peter Patter, who never could see when it was time to go to work. Who are all these people? Mother Huddle, Peter Patter? Peter Patter. I'm not gonna later, I'm gonna look it up. A classics children's book of nursery rhymes. Yeah, that checks out. Okay. Peace, friend, said the corn engrosser, but this is no matter for jesting. The soles of these clogs are not what they seem to be. He's got trick shoes! For each one is a sweet little box, and by twisting the second nail from the toe, the upper of the shoe and part of the sole lifts up like a lid, and in the spaces within are 80 bright golden pounds in each shoe, all wrapped in hair to keep them from clinking and so telling tales of themselves. Ew! Whose hair? Whose hair did he use to rub this money? He could have used fabric. He could have used a bunch of other things. I hope it's like horsehair, you know? Like, I hope it's just from like his horse's tail or... Oh no. Take that. Faolkor Echo. He could have used fucking anything! But I do kind of love his treasure shoes. Now, they wouldn't be good to walk in. They'd be so heavy. But riding the horse, it wouldn't matter. Okay. When the corn engrosser had told this, Robin broke into a roar of laughter and, laying his hands upon the bridle rein, stopped the sad-looking nag. Ew, none good what? No! I wasn't even thinking of anything that bad. I was just thinking of, like, that's kind of like cleaning out a hairbrush and using that. Like, I was not thinking of that hair. What the hell? Not a corn grocer, a corn engrosser. This book is gonna be the end of us. Okay, hold on. We can do this. When the corn engrosser had told this, Robin broke into a roar of laughter and, laying his hands upon the bridle rein, stopped the sad-looking nag. "Stay, good friend," quoth he, between bursts of merriment. "Thou art the slyest old fox that e'er I saw in all my life. In the soles of his shoon, quotha! If ever I trust a poor-seeming man again, shave my head and paint it blue. A corn factor, a horse jockey, an estate agent, and a jackdaw for cunningness, say I." And he laughed again, till he shook in his shoes with mirth. Can we bring back shoon as the plural for shoes? Shoon? I like it. I don't know why sometimes, I think they're using shoon in dialogue, but then in the rest of the prose they're saying, no, it's just S-H-O-O-N. Yeah, shoon. But I think they've used that word a couple times instead of shoes, but I think only in dialogue. So I'm guessing it's like a folksy way to say it. Okay. At this time, the corn engrosser had been staring at Robin, his mouth agape with wonder. "Art thou mad," quoth he, "to talk in this way so loud and in such a place? Let us forward and save thy mirth till we are safe, friend," quoth he. No, wait. Sorry, it scrolled the wrong way. "And save thy mirth till we are safe and sound at Newark." "Nay," quoth Robin, the tears of merriment wet on his cheeks. "On second thoughts, I go no farther than here, for I have good friends hereabouts. Thou mayst go forward if thou dost list, thou sweet pretty fellow. But thou must go forward barefoot, for I am afraid that thy shoon must be left behind. Off with them, friend, for I tell thee I have taken a great fancy to them." At these words, the corn factor grew pale as a linen napkin. "Who art thou that talkest so?" said he. Then merry Robin laughed again, and quoth he, "Men hereabouts call me Robin Hood. So, sweet friend, thou hadst best do my bidding and give me thy shoes. Wherefore hasten, I prithee, or else thou wilt not get to fair Newark town till after dark." At the sound of the name of Robin Hood, the corn factor quaked with fear, so that he had to seize his horse by the mane to save himself from falling off its back. Then, straightway and without more words, he stripped off his clogs and let them fall upon the road. Robin, still holding the bridle rein, stooped and picked them up. Then he said, "Sweet friend, I am used to ask those that I have dealings with to come and feast at Sherwood with me. I will not ask thee, because of our pleasant journey together, for I tell thee there be those in Sherwood that would not be so gentle with thee as I have been. The name of corn engrosser leaves a nasty taste upon the tongue of all honest men. Take a fool's advice of me, and come no more so nigh to Sherwood, or mayhap some day thou mayst of a sudden find a cloth-yard shaft betwixt thy ribs. So, with this, I give thee good den." Hereupon he clapped his hand to the horse's flank, and off went nag and rider. But the man's face was all bedewed with the sweat of fright, and never again, I wot, was he found so close to Sherwood Forest as he had been this day. Robin stood and looked after him, and when he was fairly gone, turned, laughing, and entered the forest, carrying the shoes in his hand. That night in sweet Sherwood, the red fires glowed brightly in wavering light on tree and bush, and all around sat or lay the stout fellows of the band to hear Robin Hood and Little John tell their adventures. All listened closely, and again the woods rang with shouts of laughter. When all was told, Friar Tuck spoke up. "Good master," said he, "thou hast had a pretty time, but still I hold to my saying that the life of the Barefoot Friar is the merrier of the two."
Nay, quoth Will Stutely, I hold with our master that he hath had the pleasanter doings of the two, for he hath had 2 stout bouts at quarterstaff this day.
So some of the band held with Robin Hood and some with Little John. As for me, I think, but I leave it with you to say for yourselves which you hold with. End of chapter. No, so Mark, is the shoes, they're wooden shoes with a compartment in the bottom filled with gold coins, and he's mixed hair in amongst the coins so that the coins don't clank against each other. Yeah. Oh my god. Hey, Will, drink water, drink water. This was, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. This is a really fun book. Let's see how many chapters are left. 4, and then the epilogue. So I think we'll probably finish this on Sunday night. Oh, Quick Play, thank you for the follow. This book is so much fun. I mean, I expected to enjoy stories of Robin Hood. I didn't think they would be this hilarious. And I feel kind of bad because they're not intentionally meant to be this hilarious. We're just modern degenerates. And they are meant to be fun and funny, though. Like, because it's a lot of them, like, playing tricks on people. Like, they are meant to be funny stories, but just not in all the ways that we're laughing about them. Yeah. Okay, well, amazing. So, yes, we are going to be wrapping up the YouTube side of things, but we'll keep going for a little while longer over on Twitch. So let me just say, yeah, we will be reading from this, probably finishing this book of Robin Hood stories on Sunday night. You love ASMR? Wonderful. We'll be doing a bit of ASMR once I wrap up this segment. Your hair is so cool and pretty. Lin Chu! Oh my god, no, no. Lin Chu's, like, so pretty. Stop that. Stop that. I am working on getting A Christmas Carol edited, and hopefully, definitely at least some of it will be posted over the weekend. No more Unk Nunky. Thank God, Johnny. No, that book is done. Hey, Will. Thank you for gifting us up to Lin Chu. What the heck? What the heck? Lin Chu does rule. Yes, you guys, everyone go follow Lin Chu. The Space Bun set. Thank you. Thank you. I realized it had been a long time since I did that. Yes, so keep an eye out for that. And TBA on what we're reading after Robin Hood. But yeah, Sunday will be Robin Hood. Okay. If you want to come hang out for a little bit, I probably won't go for ages longer, you guys, because we've already been streaming for 5.5 hours. But if you want to come catch the end of stream, if you're over on YouTube right now, Sean has just popped the Twitch link in chat. And yeah, that'll be great. And if you have been watching on YouTube, please drop a thumbs up and maybe a comment, and make sure that you're subbed to the channel. All those things really, really help, especially as I'm trying to get these channels off the ground. Very, very much appreciated if you can do that. And otherwise, yeah, I will see you live on Sunday night, and you'll be seeing Christmas Carol vids being posted before then.